I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. and call on Councillor D'Angelo to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattawaudaronk and the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the First Credit Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you, Councillor D'Angelo. Is there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? I got a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor Divinitis. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Mayor's report. On March 22nd, I attended the opening of the Welland Canal's 2023 navigation season, the 65th year, which featured the top hat ceremony presented to the captain of the CSL St. Laurent, the first upbound ship to enter the Welland Canal. The event was held at the St. Catharines Museum and Welland Canal Center, and the St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation is very optimistic heading into the 2023 navigation season. On April 4th, Councillor Sentence, Economic Development Manager Ken Schultens, and I attended an information center session at Northland Power. They spoke about their current operations and potential future investments at the Thorold facility and conducted a facility tour. I would like to thank City Council and staff who wore blue in partnership with Bethesda's Wear and Share campaign in support of Autism Spectrum Disorder and World Autism Awareness Day. It was wonderful to see all the support for this important cause. On Saturday, April 8th, I visited the Port Robinson Community Center. They held their annual Continental Breakfast and Easter egg hunt, which was fully booked. Councillor O'Hare and DeRose also attended this event. Thank you to the Community Center volunteers for all you do, not only on Easter weekend, but throughout the year. Come out and support the third annual Garden Fest, which will run this coming weekend, April 14th to Sunday, April 16th, in the parking lot at Holy Rosary Hall on the corner of Sullivan Avenue and Queen Street in Thorold. The 3-day sale, hosted by the Knights of Columbus, is open to the public and will support local charities. Proceeds will go to Special Olympics, St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank, TCAG Green the Roof Project, and Wellspring Niagara, as well as garden supplies, lawn and garden fertilizers, grass seed, and compost. There will be a bottle drive and used battery collection. Let's get out and support this great event. Congratulations to the Thorold Secondary School improv students who are among 14 teams from across the country to qualify for the 2023 Canadian Improv Games National Tournament held in Ottawa at the National Arts Centre from April 5th to April 8th. The Golden Eagles improv team is coached by drama teacher Lynn Fairquharson, and team members are Dallas Arnold, Anika Burton, Elijah Cosby, Kyle Davidson, Anna Jarmarillo, Julia Lemaire, and Sarah Robichaud. Also, on behalf of City Council, thank you to the Thorold Secondary School staff, particularly Mr. Bernardi and his tech class students who worked in conjunction with Councillor O'Hare, who spearheaded this initiative, to construct barn swallow shelters and bat boxes that will be installed towards the end of the month in Port Robinson. This is another great example of partnerships and collaboration for the greater good of the community. The City of Thorold, in partnership with the Thorold Public Library, is excited to be hosting a community-wide cleanup in recognition of Earth Day this year. On April 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., residents, businesses, schools, and community partners are invited to come out to one of 5 cleanup locations to help clean up litter along sidewalks, parks, and trails in the city. Volunteers will be provided with all materials, including gloves, garbage bags, and garbage pickers. Residents are invited to register for one of 5 locations at thorold.ca/Earth Day. The locations are Ellenburg Community Center, Port Robinson Community Center, Macadam Park in Thorold South, Battle of Beaver Dams Park, and the Thorold Public Library. The City of Thorold's Runway Recognition Awards honor the names and performances of individuals, teams, and builders in our community who have demonstrated outstanding athletic achievements. We invite residents to once again submit nominations for the 2023 awards and look forward to celebrating this year's inductees at the award ceremony on June 12th. Nominations close April 21st. Please visit thorold.ca/runway for more details. Applications are open for the White Family Foundation Open the Door Scholarship Program until May 1st. The White Family Foundation was created in order to bring equal educational opportunities to exemplar student athletes of Thorold from all backgrounds to attend college and university without financial barriers. For more information, please visit the White Family Foundation Thorold website. The City of Thorold's Age-Friendly Committee and Thorold Senior Citizens Association invite our community to submit a nomination for 2023 Thorold Senior of the Year Award and the 2023 Thorold Senior Citizens Association Senior of the Year Award. Nomination forms can be submitted online or picked up and submitted at City Hall, the Ontario Paper Thorold Senior Citizens Centre, or the Thorold Public Library. The awards recipients will be honored with their award on June 21st at the Senior Center. Congratulations to the TAA Thorold Blackhawks under 13B and under 21B hockey teams who qualified for the OMHA Championships this past weekend. The U13 team, sponsored by Canadian Corps Unit 44, were in Barrie, and the U21 team, sponsored by Impact Promotions Niagara, were in Whitby. Spring street sweeping has begun April 10th. This year's spring street sweeping is underway. The city is divided into 7 sections for sweeping, each taking approximately 10 days to complete. Maps of each area can be found on the city's website. For more information, please visit thorold.ca. The City of Thorold, in partnership with One Thorold Truth and Reconciliation Committee, is honored to celebrate Earth Day with the unveiling of the new Indigenous Unity Garden at the Mel Swart Lake Gibson Conservation Park on Saturday, April 22nd at 1 p.m. The event runs from 1 to 4 p.m. and residents are invited to come and participate in the unveiling of the Indigenous Unity Garden and associated activities. And that's the end of my mayor's report. Up next, presentations. Habitat Niagara, Thorold Builds. And our presenter is Mark Carl, Chief Executive Officer with Habitat for Humanity Niagara. And I'll call on Mark. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. Appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to be here. So, as you can see, I am Mark Carl, and I am a Chief Executive Officer of Habitat for Humanity Niagara. And Habitat for Humanity, for many of you know, is an international organization that was started in the U.S. Basically, the idea was to build affordable housing for families and has grown throughout the world. And the idea behind Habitat is a hand up, is giving families a hand up through building affordable housing and owning affordable housing. 30 years ago, we're actually, for Niagara, we're on our 30th anniversary. And we, as an organization, are proud to say, we've served over 80 families here in Niagara, built over 80 homes throughout all of Niagara here. So, but we are excited, and the exciting news why I'm here tonight is just to let Council know that we are building in 2023 5 homes here in Thorold. So we're excited to be in the community of Thorold. So I'll give a quick who we are. Next slide, thank you. Who we are, we in general, our idea, and by the way, the concept that Habitat operates, we get very little government funding, but we bring the community together to help families build strength, stability, and independence through safe, affordable home ownership. And that's one of the keys, is the home ownership. Habitat provides people the tools to take care of themselves and build their own futures through affordable home ownership, just like many. So next slide, please. We all know, and I don't want to spend much time on this, but the poverty in anywhere, but also the poverty stats in Niagara. You can see up there on the screen. And, you know, the need for affordable housing, I think, over the last several years in the pandemic has grown substantially. You know, first-time home buyers or families who are coming in. And our, you know, our kind of individuals that we would like to work with, our partner families, are working families who just can't afford, in the simplest way, they wouldn't qualify for a traditional mortgage, or they wouldn't have the down payment that would be required for a traditional mortgage. So, you know, as next slide on there, the real impacts of not having good housing in Niagara or something is usually children have a greater likelihood to have poor health, stress and poor nutrition. Often, many of us know this. I don't want to dwell on this too much, but you know, parents working long hours, they don't have time to take their kids to community activities, and they don't have the time to be spending with their children. But teens often work several jobs and schools. And one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing today in affordable housing is that, especially in Niagara, I think everyone's aware, you know, a lot of landlords and property owners have sold properties. Individuals who are renting have to move to other places. And that instability really causes a lot of stress on residents of Niagara, stress on our families, and creates a great deal of you know, inconsistency in their life, and they have to move and try to find an affordable spot. So Habitat for Humanity, we do what we can to have an impact to try to change all these things, and you'll see in another slide coming up in a couple, but I'll explain how we kind of work. So Habitat for Humanity is really a social enterprise, and Habitat for Humanity doesn't have a whole lot of government funding. So it's not, you know, we don't get a big sum of money from the government, go out and build a house, but we do depend on communities like Thorold. We depend on our partners, municipalities. We depend on businesses in the community. We depend on fundraising in the community. But the key here that I like to speak about is how our families are kind of selected. So our families and you have 5 families moving into Thorold, families are selected through Habitat home ownership program. So we have a committee of volunteers who go out and look for families, and families fill out an application. And what they really look for is somebody that's basically living underneath the poverty line, is working, may have a family, may not, but is trying to afford and trying to buy a house and trying to get out of a situation. They look at that they have a job or income that can sustain, that they can pay a mortgage, but they also look at their current living situation. So things that we look for is overcrowding. Family. The one family moving into Thorold, she had 3 children and herself, and they were living in a 1-bedroom apartment. So throughout COVID, she was a personal support worker, actually here in Thorold, and she was a personal support worker, and she would have to go home and isolate away from her children in a 1-bedroom apartment, if you could imagine. Doing homework and stuff. So we look for their living, usually, you know, if they're in a bad living situation or overcrowding or often mold. That's the types of families that we generally try to help out of their living situation into home ownership. So the Habitat, one of the things, one of the misinformation that gets out there, that we give houses away. We actually don't. We sell the house for market value to the family, and the reason for that is so they can't sell, and it's pride of ownership that they have. So it's kind of with the market value. But the difference is Habitat holds the mortgage. So Habitat holds the mortgage at 0% interest, but also holds the mortgage at it's only 30% of their income. So 30% of their income goes towards their housing cost, and then their taxes and bills, and that allows them to return to school, go back to school, and it allows them to educate their children, allows them to have their children in sports, allows them to be an active member of the community. So when they buy their homes, they buy it, and their mortgage is geared to their income. The reinvestment, one of the things that I'll talk about with reinvestment, when a Habitat family pays a mortgage, Habitat family money has to be spent on building more houses. So as an organization, by our bylaws, we can't use it to pay staff, we can't use it to pay a lease on the restores or anything like that. We have to use it to build more houses. So it's a continuously pay it forward. So if a family gets a home, they're paying their mortgage, and their mortgage is being paid forward into more housing. So, how do we do all that? And I'll just explain. There is a slide on here about restores, but our restores, that we have 3 restores here in Niagara, are restores that individuals donate to our restores. Individuals donate household products and used slightly, and we sell them at our restores. That generates income that supports our organization. So that covers the operating cost of our organization, the payment of staff, the payment of the construction staff. And then at the end of that, we usually hope to have a profit left over in the stores that helps us either buy land or build houses. So the way we kind of, build our houses is we hope for the restore to have money. We work hard to have the restores contribute to building houses in Niagara. Our families are paying their mortgages that contribute to help us building houses in Niagara. And then we fundraise and have community groups that come together and fundraise that. And then businesses give us gift in kind as well, which gift in kind is, might give us a deal on drywall, or electricians might come and hook up the electrical work for us for free. That's gift in kind. So that's how we kind of pay for the homes and continue to roll along. So next slide, please. So Habitat homeowners, back to your earlier report, but 86%, you can see on the report here, but overall what we're trying to do is Habitat homeowners talk about being happier, their health is better, their students are better. I can think of a couple families that have moved into homes and said to me, Mark, you guys always said that the marks of the children would get better, our children at school, but they did. And the person, the homeowners kind of said, I didn't really believe that, but they said they did. And it was because they had the security and the safety. And you could imagine if you're a child going to school and you're unsure if you're going to be in that school next year. But with a Habitat home, they're secure. They know they're going to be in school next year. They know that they can have friends over for a sleepover. They know that they can. So, we look at that. We look at the excitement that the families have. We think of, a family that locally here that just had a Habitat home, and she was a dentist, and she was a new Canadian. She was a dentist in her home country, but having the Habitat home allowed her to go back to school, and she's now opened up her own dentist practice here in Canada. So that's truly the magic that we look for, that Habitat's trying to create. You can see here, overall, they're better off financially. You can see that their financial situation improves. Next slide. The exciting news that I want to just basically allow council here to know, and I want the community to know, our plans over this year, 2023, is we're building 5 homes here in Thorold. So the 5 homes, 3 are on Mary Street, and then we're building a semi on Taylor Street. Construction is on their way. You can see the 2 homes that are up now. Those 2 homes, we call it a home dedication, where we hand the keys over to the family. That will be around June the 1st. We're trying to finalize the dates, but that'll be around June the 1st. We're started construction on the 3rd home, and then in the fall, we will be doing a women's build for the semi, and it'll be women will be building the semi that will be in Thorold on Taylor Street. So, and these 5 homes we're within 30 homes in the next 5 years. So we want to build 30 homes. We are building 30 homes within the next 5 years here in Niagara to help 30 families prosper. Next slide is this is Mavis. I don't know if that YouTube video, if we have time for it, if it works. Mavis is moving into one of the homes that you saw listed. Does that work, or does the YouTube clip work? Not sure if it will, but she'll give if it's a problem, if it's not. Oh, it may not. That's okay. Everyone will get to meet Mavis, but this is Mavis. She is moving into the first home that you saw built there, and her and her 3 children will be moving into the home and purchasing the home and and that is a new Thorold resident, that Mavis and her 3 teenage children. Next slide are the other family. You see Mavis's family in there, but Fenora and Claudia as well, and you'll see the families that are moving into Thorold. We still have a family to choose as well from to move into this homes here in Thorold. Next slide. We talked a little bit about restores. I told you how we sell donated products and slightly used products to the community. And as you can see, we have a restore in Thorold. If nobody's familiar, it's in Thorold on Highway 20. Councillor D'Angelo is always Thorold. See there quite often, and Thorold at Highway 20. Grimsby as well, and St. Catharines are our 3 restores that we have that basically operate to help pay our operations costs. Next slide. Perfect. How can one help? One can help by volunteering, getting involved in our restores, holding an event, a fundraiser, holding an event that helps us raise money or donations towards raising your voice, becoming an advocate, and helping us with affordable housing in our community. We have build days that happen. That's where community groups come together and help us build the houses. We usually give you a T-shirt that doesn't fit and a cold pizza for lunch, but you'll always enjoy the day is what you'll get. restore donations and just dropping off slightly used products instead of taking them to the landfill. That helps with, not filling up the landfill. You can bring them to the restore. And next slide. How can yourselves as a City of Thorold Council help us out? Everyone can help us by spreading the word through your community, that habitat, what we're trying to achieve. Also, just awareness to the business community that they can support us through gift in kind donations, being part of our builds, or just donations to one of our restores. You're out there in the community, you have a lot of contacts and you're at a lot of events. And, with projects, any incentives that the city can have, or if we can fit into the affordable housing, we are working with staff. So just so you know, staff are working with us to fit into the affordable housing for reducing of development fees. And then let us know if there's any land that we can potentially purchase, or we always like free land or donation that comes up, or if anyone upon your travels sees anyone. So thank you very much. And I'll open it up to any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks so much, Mark. I'll open the floor to questions. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mark, excellent presentation. I've always loved this organization. You do such fabulous work. And congratulations on your 30-year anniversary. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been the community that's done it, so volunteers and everyone. So
I just have a couple of questions. Do you have any specific lot sizes or locations where you want to build?
No, actually we don't. It's a great question. No, we currently are building on single families. You'll see single family houses. We often end up with, because it's more affordable to buy or donate it, kind of that different type of lot size. It might be that corner lot in a development or something the developers can't use. We are moving next year we'll be building 6 townhouses. And then we have zoned property, and the development plans are starting for 16 townhouses in a development in Niagara Falls. So we're moving to townhouses and stacked townhouses. And the reason for that, it's just the use of land, maximizing the use of land. But we still are looking for single-family lots. I'll tell you why. Single-family lots sometimes in our fundraising, if we just can build one house. Once you're into 6 townhouses, you've got to have the money and you've got to be ready to build it, and you got to, but we do like it every now and then. In between those projects, we would like to still build some single-family houses. So, yeah.
Great.
So no particular location. We do. I got to tell you, our families. We have an application, and they do check where they would like to live. And Thorold is one of the best, most checked off communities. Right. So I will tell you that it's actually checked off It's checked off the most around St. Catharines and Thorold. So. Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Councillor.
everything.
Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Mark. Great organization. I became aware of them in university many years ago. They would actually come the week of homecoming on campus in the U.S., down in South Carolina. And they would while the students were preparing floats, they would be building these houses. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then we got to know who was getting them and followed up. And it's just, you're right, it makes a world of difference in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any future plans for Thorold in the next few years?
We do. So we're building these 5 that are going to come back. We have enough land to put on Mary Street as well too, and we're just working with the city and committee adjustment. We would like to put 4 townhouses on that piece of property. It's just down from where we're currently building. There's 3 lots, but we're just currently working with the committee of adjustment to see if we can put a 4th townhouse. We're just trying to maximize the amount of property. That would be in about, probably realistically, by the time we finish the townhouses in Niagara Falls and come back, it'll probably be 4 years to 5 years from now, just to let you know.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, what's the timeline for these 5 that are getting done?
So the first 2 will be complete and ready for around June 1st. The next property, the 3rd one, will be complete, and the family will be moving in August. And for the semi, that's the women's build that will have all women, we're gearing for December 2023 this year. So all 5 families will be in this year.
That's great.
We're having a great experience in Thorold, and to answer your question, we will build more in Thorold, and if we could come back sooner and the opportunity, we would love to do that. So.
Thanks, Mark. Great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, thanks for the presentation, Mark. Great organization. I love what you do. Just a couple questions. There are always families, right, that come into these homes? Like it's not couples, it's families that come into these homes? Or
there is some movement with stacked townhouses and that to couples as well, too. Yeah, we've had some couples, but mostly it's just, Generally, it's families because of, when you're building a house in five, and I mean, it's just the way that we have a lot of selection, and that's when I went back to that, the overcrowding, or, it's usually individuals in a one-bedroom apartment when the selection committee. So the selection committee is volunteers. They volunteer for us. They go out and they'll see the families with the most needs. We, in other communities, other habitats around and in Niagara, they are serving seniors and some, a couple and stuff like that. So we are moving in that direction because we do recognize the need, especially amongst the senior population.
Right, there is a need for other things too, so that's good to know.
100%.
How were we fortunate enough to get selected? How did you select Thorold, or how did they come about, those?
Great, yeah, we like Thorold. There's great community.
That's it?
No. We were fortunate enough to work with Ontario Power Generation, who own the land.
Yeah.
On Mary Street. We were able to purchase that land off of Mary Street. And I'll tell you a little, so we actually had land on Pilkington Avenue.
Okay.
We had built back several years ago two semis, and the backyard was landlocked, and it actually equated to 5 lots. We were fortunate enough to, Karen Wood Homes bought those lands, so Karen Wood and we met, and they were putting a road in Pilkington. I don't know if you guys have seen, if everyone has seen that Pilkington's getting developed. We were able to trade the lots with them. And I just thought it was important to Karen Wood in a partnership. They were building 2-story double-car garage homes. And for habitat families, it was better to be on Mary Street, where they were smaller lots, but it fit in a little better. And Karen Wood serviced the lots for us. So because we were kind of moving into a smaller lot, they were generous enough to service it with water and sewer. So it was really within an agreement and a partnership with Ontario Power Generation is where it's.
Nice to hear. Thank you for everything you do.
No problem. Thank you.
Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mark, for your presentation. It was wonderful. In the presentation, you had mentioned that your volunteers go out and look for families. So that must be a process. Is there do people come to you and ask to be put on a waiting list for homes? How does that happen?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
really interesting.
Yeah, either they come in a resource. I'll tell you our greatest kind of people who refer families are our habitat families. We actually statistically, our habitat families usually get into the community. They start working in the community. They give back. They contribute. They volunteer. They belong to service groups. Often, and what they'll say to the service groups is, "You should apply to a habitat home." Most of our referrals come from within the habitat families. We also go out and promote speak engagements like this, and families will contact us, and we send them an application and get them on the waiting list and application in. So yeah, and we don't just, sometimes it's a good question, because even if families don't qualify at first, we do talk to them about other options. We work with them to help them with their housing needs. Other community groups out there, we try to direct them in the right way. And we also try to direct them in, what types of things would it take to get bank approval? What type of credit score would they need? What type of money would they need for down payment? So when somebody applies, we just don't say, okay, we just put you on a waiting list. Our ultimate goal is to help them progress forward and hopefully qualify for a traditional mortgage or, buy a house on their own.
That's great. Thank you, Mark.
Go ahead, Councillor Devaney.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Great presentation, Mark. I go on the one in Thorold and I donate things. And do you still give those tax receipts out?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think people should know that, because it's so good to give and you get a little bit back.
Yeah.
Encourage more people. I just want to make sure you still do that. That's
Yeah, we
great.
do. Yeah. So definitely, we still, if somebody donates to the restores, and to a certain level of amount, but if you donate to this restores, you can get a tax receipt for your donation. And if groups donate to our housing building programs, things like that, you get tax receipts as well. And it's great because, we have people who donate, they have kitchens. We go in and remove the kitchen and we sell the kitchens. We remove it out of their house, it gets removed. It doesn't go to the landfill. And the families who donate the kitchen get a tax receipt for what the kitchen sells for. Even small items too, they get tax receipts for small items too. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Councillor D'Angelo.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, everyone's mentioned, great presentation. Great to bring this information forward. Not a lot of people are always aware of everything that's going on in our community to make it better. You guys are a great part of this. I know myself, I've been going to Habitat to purchase things at different times. I go back to Cushman Road over 20 years ago, but it's great to see that you now have a store in Thorold.
Right.
And you've highlighted that on your slides, so we appreciate that. And I just want to highlight the donations too. I've also given donations, and Habitat actually comes to your door and picks them up if they're large items. So you don't have to worry about trying to truck them there. They make arrangements, they give you the donation receipt, so there's opportunities. Now, it's hit and miss because there's some items you want, some items you don't, based on your inventory at the time. But one of the other things great about going to their store, they have a lot of great products. Some of it's new, some of it's gently used, but you don't pay any tax. So if you want to avoid paying HST, you go to Habitat Restore and you don't pay the HST. So that's the accountant me in speaking. So if you want to do some
and I can verify,
shopping,
I see Counselor in the store several times now. So
yeah, I visit both St. Catharines and the Thorold store, but they have some great products, especially if you're doing projects around the house. It's good to give, but it's also good to buy because it helps the program too. So it's important to do both ends of it. The one thing I wanted to make mention, and I'm not sure how familiar you are, but Port Robinson West community, there's a lot of subdivision planning going on there, and we just had a planning meeting prior to this for a rezoning amendment. And a councillor here actually brought this question up because he talked about affordable housing and how they're going to work that into it. They didn't really have an answer at the time. So you may want to approach the developers there and see if there's an opportunity, because you would be part of that comprehensive zoning bylaw and our official plan of getting more affordable housing into the developments. And if somehow you can manage to get some lots and get in there and build a few more homes in Thorold, again, centrally located, it would be awesome. So I sort of, it's not really a question, but more of a lead to maybe talk to the developers there and see if there's any opportunity, because you've worked with other ones in the past, and I think that could be a great venue for you to look at.
we've had success with that in the past, and I can tell you in GTA in Toronto, that's how Habitat in Toronto gets a lot of their properties and land, is exactly that. When developers come in and want to build, the city council or so says, yeah, what's your part of the affordable housing part? And that's how they end up purchasing or getting donated space to build stacked townhouses and things like that. So I will follow up with that, and that's one thing that we will, and approach them and see if we can be part of that partnership.
Well, I figured through, Mr. Mayor, that you gave us a bit of a homework trying to promote you. Now we're giving you a bit of a homework to help yourself.
That sounds
Thanks,
great.
Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I will follow up with that.
Councillor Hanlon.
I've seen everybody wants to get a comment, and I have to do. I just want to say, I go back when Alistair ran it, Cushman Road, honest to God, my whole kitchen. At Cushman Road, you could get doors, oak doors. I went there and I bought all oak doors and cabinetry, and I had a cabinet maker make all my cabinets for my house and my kitchen, all from Habitat for Humanity. My kitchen dining room light, my hall lights and everything. So you're a great resource. I'm glad to see that you're in Thorold. And I know no more or less like a question. I know you were going to work with staff, but I was going to mention to you, I know that we have a catalog. We got a blue binder around. The city does have land. And always be great to work with you guys because you do a great thing for the community and the world. I think it started with Jimmy Carter. Didn't he have something to do with it in Georgia?
The starters, yeah, one of the founders.
That's where it started back then. So it's great that it's continued for so many years. Great endeavor.
Thank you. And see, every councillor asked you a question.
There you go. No, there's one.
And I'm going to just bring up one point because when you visited and we had a discussion with planning, Mark came in and Mark, tell them about an initiative you're looking for with our staff and council to come out and put a hard hat on, if you want to maybe elaborate on.
Sure, if you're what two items. First of all, first item is when we dedicate the homes. Certainly, everybody here be invited out to join us to the home dedication, and you're welcome to join us. We'll send out an invitation. Join us. It's a special moment when you see families move into their homes and their excitement. The second one is we're offering up some build days to the city of Thorold, and however yourselves, and those build days are where you can come out and help us drywall, paint, put some flooring down, sod, whatever the job is. They can have the mayor look through and select what he wants his councilors to do, right? So we can put that out there.
We're a bunch.
But I do invite. You'll see the invitations will come out. We'll work through the mayor's office, and we encourage you to come out and help us build the homes and join us for that cold pizza and T-shirt that doesn't fit, right? So we'll love to have you out for that.
I could do a quick comment. I got all the tools you need for putting in flooring, hardwood flooring. I got all the tile tools. I got drywall lifts, everything, so I'd be more than willing to help you. I've done it in Thorold myself a couple of times for the community, help build buildings, and you pick the dates.
Yeah.
We'll get the
combine
dates
help.
out as soon as we get them.
We'll get the gate out. We'll try to make it fun too. We don't expect you to lay all the flooring and stuff.
And maybe we can get warm pizza.
That's all right.
Anyways, Mark, I want to thank you for coming to council, and it's always good to see you, and we really appreciate the work you're doing with your group, Habitat Niagara, and we look forward to being a part of that moving forward.
And thank you, and we're extremely happy to be here in Thorold, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, up next, I have Jeff Dixon from ASM Global, who's going to give us a presentation on the Canada Summer Games Park operations. And Jeff?
Hello, thank you very much. Thanks for having us here today. My name is Jeff Dixon. I'm the general manager with ASM Global, and my colleague here with me, Laura Verdone, is she's the assistant general manager with ASM Global here locally. Next slide, please. So we appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak with council today, do a little bit of presentation on who we are, a little bit about our wonderful Canada Games Park, and spend some time for some Q&A for you at the end. Next slide, please. So a little bit about ASM Global. We are the largest venue management company in the world. We're managing about 325 venues worldwide. We've been in the Canadian market since '98, and in Niagara managing the Meridian Centre since 2014. So we manage venues big and small, from stadiums, football stadiums, to arenas, to community centers and theaters. And ASM, the most important thing that ASM recognizes as that our greatest assets are our local talent. So here, the talent here locally and in all of our markets is our greatest asset to the venues. Next slide, please. Just some overall things that ASM really focus on and our different pillars, and the best one that we focus on here mostly is the best-in-class management, using our assets at our corporate offices and our corporate regional support staff to help us really make sure that we diversify what we're doing here at Canada Games Park. Next slide, please. So ASM was selected by the Canadian by the consortium, the Canada Games Park Consortium, as the independent operator back, and we started in February of 2020. So that was after the completion of the building. We stepped in and started operating immediately. So ASM deployed a shared staffing model. So we've used our best practices we've deployed in multiple locations, providing administrative support, staffing and levels for both Meridian Centre and Canada Games Park, combining our buying powers, our operating efficiencies, and industry best practices. We have dedicated on-site operational, scheduling, event, and guest service staff. And this model, as I mentioned, has been deployed in multiple locations throughout our company and has been very, very successful. Next slide, please. What the consortium outlined for us as we walk through the doors is these objectives for the operator. And I won't read through all of these, but these are for you, but they really come down to what we had focused on immediately to try to get that building up and running. We stepped in stepped in with the building open, and within the first 2 months, we're able to host a home and garden show in it, be prepared for lacrosse, and of course, help finalize the building and prepare it for the country to come visit us here in Niagara with the Canada Summer Games. Next slide, please. A little bit about your consortium. Obviously, you're all aware and probably detailed on the agreements that have been in place, but your consortium partners here for the ownership of the building, the Niagara region, Brock University, yourselves, and St. Catharines, they make up the capital ownership or partners. And then the operation commitments are the three partners, being Brock University, Thorold, and St. Catharines. Obviously, there is a component of the Niagara 2022 legacy that does play a big part of the way that this building is operated, that we work through and continue to work through right now. Next slide, please. Overall organizational chart, just so you are aware of how we report. We obviously report directly into the consortium partners, the consortium management, And then we have our team of directors and manager in our administration offices that support all of the on-site staff on a regular basis. My colleague Laura, she spends 98.5% of her time at Canada Games Park at this time. I'm in and out probably a couple times a week. But a lot of these staff, we have regular rotation of both our senior level staff as well as management staff throughout the building. Next slide, please. A little bit about Canada Games Park. I'm hopefully everyone's been through the building. I've recognized a few faces, but it's a great venue, and we should be extremely proud that this venue is here in Niagara. So obviously it's the newest high-performance multi-use complex in Canada, built for our 2022 Summer Games with the vision to be a hub of high-performance athletics and recreational activity for all. There's two real components to Canada Games Park, the inside and the out. Walker Sports and Ability Center being the inside, and the GFL Environmental International Track and Field, and the GFL Environmental Bike Center and Beach Volleyball. Thanks to GFL for their sponsorships. Next slide, please. Just a few pictures, and next slide. And one more, please. So when we're looking outside, and obviously as you walk the grounds, the weather gets nice, we have our 800-meter, 8-lane World Athletics certified track, the competition field for the jumps and throws, 6 beach volleyball courts that have been uncovered and will be ready by March. Victoria Day weekend is our goal based on weather. The bike center, the open air bike center, that if anyone's gone through, if you have a flat tire, you can try to pump it back up and fix your bike there. There's storage and obviously the 291 dedicated parking spaces. Next slide, please. Indoors is where we've spent, unfortunately, a lot of our time because of the weather over the last little while, but it is a beautiful, beautiful venue, and we do hear unbelievable amount of compliments as people come into this venue on how wonderful it is and the ability to use it. Next slide, please. Really, the two primary parts, we touched on the arenas in the first slide, the second slide being the gymnasium space. And one more slide, please. The convertible arenas, for those of you who attended the Summer Games or have family members or relatives within the lacrosse communities would have seen the rink set up in the lacrosse format with the grass turf last year. A wonderful asset where we are the only municipality that I'm aware of that has 2 grass fields that are available for rent, or grass turf arenas, which is awesome. The Triangle Gymnasium, which is the largest sprung floor in Canada. It's divisible into 4 basketball courts or volleyball or whatever we may use them for. The Hajah Hamadi Family Foundation track, which is our 200-meter World Athletics certified indoor track as well. Which I see a number of people obviously using it. Wonderful part of this building is that the Brock Functional Inclusive Training Center, that's the BFIT, that's the rebranded name for the Brock Niagara Health and Wellbeing Center that has moved into it. That is an extremely well-used facility and a membership-based facility supported by Brock. The Canadian Sport Institute of Ontario is a new tenant that is just moving into the building as of the beginning of April. Majority of their equipment has been moved into there, and they're sharing the space with our friends at Sport Niagara, which is the legacy component of the games. So the host society then transformed into the Sport Niagara. And of course, we have the Brock men's and women's hockey. Athletics have dedicated team space in there, and they access all of the building for their hockey training and so on. Next slide, please. One of the big parts of the building that we've been working our way through is the allocation process. A number of the allocations were outlined in the consortium agreement moving in. Those allocations were done years ago, and so we've been, as we work through the first year of allocations, looking for better options and ideas with your staff and colleagues. The arenas themselves were divided into almost 3 equal allocations parts. St. Catharines and Thorold probably taking the majority of it, and then Brock having the third because they take a little more of non-prime time. But for your user groups like the Thorold minor hockey, excuse me, that's not the exact name of them, but there's 2 figure skating groups that are the primary users out of Thorold in the building right now. And then the gymnasiums, neither St. Catharines or Thorold has dedicated allocated times that they're responsible for putting users into, but Brock does. Brock has taken a large chunk of that space, which is great, during non-peak times for their athletics and for their students to use. The rest of the allocations are done by ASM Global, so we've worked through and basically, to see what the need was in year 1. And we've made a lot of observations through year 1 of operations, and we've been working again with Thorold staff, St. Catharines staff, Brock staff, to really look at what is the desired usage, what is the community usage in terms of making sure that our allocation strategy is fair and meets the requirements of the management committee, because obviously we report back to them. Next slide, please. I also want to make a good point is saying that the venue has been used for more than just the community user groups. And I think it's really, really important to see that at this point in time. These are just a sampling of the events in 2022 that were outside of those community groups that were allocated. A lot of them, we see a lot of volleyball tournaments on the weekends. If you go in there, the parking is busy and the usage is busy. But we also see a lot, as the weather gets nicer, a lot of the track usage, a lot of not-for-profit groups reaching out to us to try to utilize and do fundraising and so on. So we are open to trying to work with everybody and anybody to maximize the utilization of the space and have the community come into it. If we go to the next slide, you can see that we've already done a great job into 2023 with, again, a little bit of a sampling of other groups. And I want to point out that last group, the Volleyball Canada group, we've been working with Brock University to bring the Canada Cup, which is a training for volleyball, to it. So that would be our first kind of quote-unquote high performance group that we've been able to land something that's very important. And that's the only reason why this group is coming here is because of that building. There is no other reason. We also do, I guess the second one that we've been doing is Rugby Ontario. They've been training with us. So those are the 2 of many that are interested through our national sports organizations and our provincial sports organizations, who again, we are working with Sport Niagara to really partner and try to maximize those spaces. Next slide, please. As we move forward, we've done our spring allocations, are completed with the Dry 4 gymnasium and volleyball. If anyone is listening, there's still space available in the spring and summer. Please call, reach out, CanadaGamesPark.ca. We're working with different groups to make sure that we are getting the right allocations and efficiencies, looking at 23-24 programming for ice usage, community access, high performance. Legacy is still a little bit of a question mark for us as we work with Sport Niagara and through the management committee to make sure that we're meeting the obligations that are in front of us. So that's a big one. We also have vacant office space that we have been speaking to community members. There will be some sort of a flyer that's going out and a push on social media and through our website to look at what we have available there and to see if we can rent the available space to the right users. Sports organizations are our targets right off the bat. And then lastly, there is a third dedicated tenant space with Brock. The Brock Hockey, there's 3 rooms in there. Men's has 1, women's hockey has the other. There's a third space in there too. So we're going to be releasing an expression of interest in the next, hopefully within the next week, that will go out to see if we can fill that third space for next season as well. So with that, I bring it to the next slide, which is thank you, and I'm happy to answer all of your questions.
Thank you, Jeff and Laura, and I'll open the floor for questions from council. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Mr. Mayor, through you. Thanks for coming in, Jeff. I was out at the tour that you took us through the facility, fantastic facility. I was really impressed. So thank you for offering that when we were able to come out and see you. I have a couple of questions. I'm going to come back to the allocation again. I know it's the first year. I know it's a learning curve. I know there are things that we'll discover as more time passes by with the facility. But the question is this, and maybe it's more directed for you, Laura, because you're there 98.5% of the time. So what happens, and how often do you see one of the facilities, whether it's the basketball courts, whether it's one of the rinks or the track upstairs, not being utilized, completely vacant? And I'm sure that happens from time to time. What is in place, what has been established to try to fill that void? And I'm not even necessarily talking about bringing in income for that period, just so that it is put to use. So that's my first question. I don't know if...
I can take a through you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And absolutely, especially non-prime, I would say that if you come in during the day, that there is unused space. It would be similar to an arena or space throughout the community when primarily people are working. During prime times, we are maximizing, so anything from 5 o'clock onwards, I would say that that building is well utilized, especially the arenas with Brock University intramurals going to about 1 in the morning, 1 or 2, depending on what the day is. What we've been talking about with staff and support through Thorold, through St. Catharines and Brock, is what to do with that additional space that is not programmed at this point in time. So without competing against programming that is already in place. For example, if there's a stick and puck in place for seniors, let's say, and it's not well utilized in Thorold, there would be no reason for us to put something like that in place. But if it is something that's always popular and there's a wait list and so on, then yes, we would look at doing that. We're also looking at drop-in sessions for things like shooting hoops, you know, but trying to determine, is it a a small fee to drop in? Do you get a membership card? Is it open to the community? Whatever it is. We are researching that. We visited a number, Laura's staff has done a lot of visitations to a lot of different places like the Pan Am Game Center in Scarborough and Markham to see what they're doing in terms of how they coordinate theirs. They're a little more strict. We want to be a little more open and not as restrictive. But all these things are being discussed right now in this new allocation process that will really come into play for that, what we call September of 2023, for that next ice season and the prime time for court rentals.
Okay. Yeah, great, thank you. And lastly, you spoke also about the tenancy availability. What sort of percentage are we talking within the facility right now that is still vacant and needing to be filled?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have that exact number. I apologize. There's 2 spaces, just because after the games and through the legacies that were originally designed one way or the next, and 5 years ago or 10 years ago may have had like a check mark beside, might not still have that check mark. There's approximately 10,000 square feet in one area that is divided into multiple smaller rooms, and about 6,000 square feet both on the second level of the building that are open, but we're having conversations already with people.
Great.
On. And the third tenant room as well is still available.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Hanlon.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Much appreciated. Just a couple of questions and concerns. I've been out there myself a few times, and one of the items I noticed the times that I have gone, each time I've gone, is at the parking and the amount of cars that are in the parking lot. And when I go into the venue and I look at the rinks and the basketball courts and count heads, they don't add up. So I actually went there and I stood outside and could visibly see where students were parking their cars, running across to Brock University. We know that we're having these venues. There's limited amount of parking spaces. There's some upcoming venues going on where you're telling people to come early because they may not have adequate parking, but there's nothing. So my question is, seeing that we're one of the people that are paying for the service, what are we going to do to alleviate that? Because it's obviously occurring, and it's on an ongoing basis every day. Every day I've gone there, I've actually gone upstairs and stood by the court and watched people get out of their car and head right to Brock University. Don't even attempt to come in. So are we going to address that somehow so that when residents of Thorold want to use the facility, there's adequate parking available?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, absolutely. So we are well aware of that, and that was a challenge from day one that was good, that was brought to our attention. So we have partnered with a towing company right now. So we are going to be rolling that strategy, or we have a strategy, but rolling that out and do a few tow a few cars as we watch. But we've also had conversations with Brock University, who have a new technology for plate scanning. So we're having conversations with them too to determine what the best solution is for this parking lot. There's 291 spots. On the weekends, it's very busy, and after hours, we haven't, it's always going to be a problem. I think that's just...
It was something that we actually brought up at council when this was brought forward 4 years ago. That was one of our concerns then. So I think there's, not to be critical of you or anything, because you just took over in 22, but there's plenty of time to come to some type of resolution or solution how we're going to alleviate that. But that's for another day. We'll see what happens in the future.
Okay.
One of the other things that I noticed there when I was there parking is the lack of handicap accessible parking spots. It's more geared towards people that aren't handicapped, but yet seeing the facility there. So to me, I think that's a concern too that I would like to see addressed. So are we looking at something also too, so more accessible for people with handicaps?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, that was brought by the management committee to ASM to action, or to review and action. So we do have a quote to add, I think it's 6 or 7 spots in the front, that's first row when you come in, of barrier-free spots for a very affordable spot. But we won't do that until end of May. That's what the company has recommended for us at this time.
Okay, thanks, great, appreciate that. Another one I have is with, obviously the parking, of course, I meant the security. Not that I have done it myself, but when I was out there one day, I'm noticing that there was a tournament going on and there was tailgating going on. And me being a counselor here, and the way the legislation is now, that I could be physically held liable myself for activities going on in there. What type of security does the consortium have, seeing that we're not associated with Brock, to control that type of behavior?
So again,
only on the liability issue, understandably.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't have. It's through our staff, our on-site staff, through guest service and operations staff. So it would be similar to what the arenas through, Thorold Arena and so on is run, that we monitor through the change rooms and parking lots. It is a very, very tough thing to monitor. We've not had any situations that we haven't been able to action at this point in time. So right now, it's something that we continue to monitor, we are aware of, and if it does become more of an issue that is brought to our attention, we would have to bring in private security to monitor the lots.
Okay, thank you very much on that one. Just another one would be in regards to the usage of the facility. I know that we have some user groups like the Thorold Community or the Thorold Amateur Athletic Association. Are other groups in Thorold using your facility? Long-standing, like Thorold Community Activities Group, are they using it?
Yes.
The schools, RIC, District School Board of Niagara?
Correct, yes. Thorold Community Activities Group is their appropriate name. They do have gym time in it, and I believe that they've also reserved some beach time as well, some beach volleyball time. And absolutely, all the schools, both the Catholic Board and the Niagara District School Board have been in touch and used it for multiple events, basketball, outdoor track and field and such.
Okay, one other thing. I see the beach volleyballs out there, but where's the beach at? No. But it's a great job, eh? But, hey, Thorold Beach, I had to say that, eh? They call it beach volleyball, but there's no beach. But I appreciate you coming. We've been wanting you to come for some time, and I appreciate you taking questions and giving us some answers.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. I'm one of the newer councillors, so I'm getting myself a little bit more familiar with what's going on here. So you've filled in some of the gaps in terms of how this organization is run. And I have a few questions regarding that through you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of a budget, there's the consortium group. Who's responsible to produce the budget? Is that something that you would present to the consortium group and they would then approve the budget? Because we don't, like, from my standpoint, I haven't seen any financial numbers. I have no idea about utilization rates. I see nothing of that. All I see is a check or a check requisition that we owe you 20 grand for unused ice. That's all I see. So it doesn't give me that warm, fuzzy feeling. So for me, I need a little bit more communication and a little bit more data to show me what's happening there. So, and I start with the budget in terms, like, is that something council can see the budget? Is council send our representatives there to vote on behalf of that budget? So if you could maybe give a little bit of background on that to help us out.
Certainly, yes. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Great question. So we do have ASM, we do create the budget every year and we present it to the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee vets it. There is a representative from the region, from Thorold, from Brock, and St. Catharines. There's actually 2 representatives per organization on that committee right now. That committee, back and forth with our Director of Finance, goes through, and then that is presented to the Management Committee, and the Management Committee approves it, and then we operate to that budget. So that's the how that is reported back to the councils and released and so on. That would be a question of the Management Committee. That wouldn't necessarily be on ASM's.
Oh, thank you for that answer. Because some of the items, like in terms of, we had underutilization of ice time. And then I have user groups contacting me directly that aren't getting sufficient ice time or sufficient usage. Like, I guess in my mind, I have no decision-making process on who uses the facility, how much they get charged. That's all done through the consortium. But working with you as the group managing the facility, is that how it works then?
Yes, correct. So again, sorry, Mr. Mayor, through you, the rates and fees were set out for us when we arrived for year 1, and we've held them for year 2. From the proforma that was issued, that came along with basically when we got the contract to manage it. So we've held those rates and fees, created the budgets around those rates and fees, and the utilization of ice and all the other space in there. So if you're speaking specifically about ice time usage, Thorold has certain dedicated times that were allotted to them prior to our arrival, and they were working within their time slots. If they cannot fill the time slot because it's maybe a late hour or an odd early morning time or just a random time, then that would be the underutilized space that the municipality or the partner would still have to pay for.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to follow up on that then. So if there's times that are, so do we have a list that we can see with these dedicated times? Because it's not, and we have this coming up later in our meeting, it's not always about getting as much maximum dollars. It's a matter of utilizing it for some purpose. So if we know we're not utilizing 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, but yet we're paying for it, we need to know that so that we could get one of our user groups of whoever wants, if it's a public skate, if it's a senior skate, then we can put them in there, and we're paying for that ice time anyways, but at least someone's benefiting from it. And that's where a bit of the frustration's coming from my end and from some of the citizens that are talking to me, because they see us paying, but they don't see an opportunity to use it for the betterment of the community. So is that something we could get that information in advance to help get that out to some of our user community groups and look at managing that a little better so that it's being utilized? Is that, and how far in advance can you give that to us?
Yes, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. So through, and I apologize, 'cause I don't know the title of your departments, but the Parks and Rec Department and working, I know that they have an allocation procedure and policy that's how they allocate the times too, because I know the city of St. Catharines does the same thing in terms of ensuring that the right user groups are getting first rights and so on to the spaces. I believe that they're doing a great job assigning those spaces, and then whatever is left over at the end is available to resell to obviously Thorold communities if it's Thorold time, or come back to ASM to help resell that. If we're looking at year one, which we were just in, I believe because it was all new to a lot of people, there was a lot of moving and hesitation of releasing spaces and so on all the municipalities, or the two municipalities and Brock's part. So it wouldn't have necessarily utilized the space to the maximum. We are working hard with Thorold and St. Catharines and Brock to try to make sure that we have a procedure in place that works a lot better for all the groups to make sure that no one is paying for unused space. We want it to be utilized by somebody else is the goal. And yes, anything that we do, we give through our committees, and it ends up at the management committee. And there's, and then it would be up to the management committee to allow that allocation wherever it goes from there. But I know that we're working with Stephanie, and I can't remember Stephanie's last name, but here with the City of Thorold on that allocation process. She's a part of that working group.
Okay. If I could just follow up a little bit more, and I'll use an example. I know we have a report coming later for some senior skate and for some public skating, but I guess the agreement only allows us, or gives us allocations from September to March. So now in April, the ice is sort of available for anyone to utilize. Like, who would have made that decision? Is that the consortium group? And if there's losses running on that, who's responsible for those?
So we've budgeted it accordingly. Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, that was to remove one ice pad at the end of March and one at the end of April was included in the original pro forma of the agreement. So there was original pro forma was done again before our times by a third-party consulting that all the organizations were involved in. And my understanding was, I apologize, it was before my time period, before the management contract was signed and before I would assume the consortium agreement was signed. And in that, it allocated when the ice comes in and out. So we were basically running year one as the pro forma told us to run. And that was the direction that we went under from day one. So that's why the ice comes out, and then it would be the operating partners, if we're operating at a loss during that time period, that would have to offset that expense.
Okay, so for the month of April, are you budgeting a loss or are you budgeting a profit?
I apologize, I don't have those numbers in front of me right now.
It just affects our decision because, and again, this is where there's a bit of frustration in our community. Every time we go to use this facility, there's a charge on it, right? But yet it's already being paid for in the first place. So now we're trying to run some senior skates and some public skating, and it's an additional $5,000. Councilor brought up last time, we wanted some dedicated time for the track for walkers. We had to then now start budgeting money for that. Now, I understand that, but at the end of the day, the three consortium players are paying for all this stuff. And for me, it's not always about making money, it's about utilizing it in our community and giving access to their community members. So they understand that we're paying for this and then we're getting access. But now we're not getting access and we're paying additional. So that's where a bit of the frustration's coming from members of the community that have spoken to me. Just wanted to So I know you're working through this, it's the first year, and he's back, and try to accommodate some of that and try to work through that so that citizens are getting utilization. And again, maybe and I know using ice time as an example, prime time's easy to sell. Everyone wants prime time. It's the non-prime time, but that's where there's an opportunity for the community to say, okay, Thorold, these are our times. Let's have our seniors skate there. We're paying for it anyways, and then we get time there for our seniors, as an example. So I just wanted to sort of bring that back to you. And then some of the other concerns that were brought to me through the community were like exclusive dressing rooms. I know you mentioned up there Brock has one for their team. They have one for the women's and the men's. And then there was a third one that you mentioned that you're out trying to market.
Correct.
Because I know, and I don't, again, being new on council, we had a junior B team and they were, I thought we could probably work something out where they could go there and utilize there and have the appropriate stuff, amenities that are required. They ended up moving out of our community. I know we're trying to work to get that back. So that's something that might be useful for our knowledge to see if we can use that facility that you're trying to market to bring them back to our community. So I'm glad to hear that. That's a good point. I do have some other questions, but I don't want to utilize all the time. So maybe some of the other councillors want to ask questions. I'll come back and fill in the ones that they haven't asked.
Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you very much, Jeff, for the presentation, and Laura. First off, I want to say thank you for always answering my phone call same day and answering questions, even if it's not the answer I wanted. You always come up and you always are there. So I appreciate that, and Dan as well. So thank you. My only question is, when we're talking about all this stuff, I think we all agree upon one thing is optimization. And it sounds that's the direction you're going into, is to optimize ice, optimize gym time, optimize everything. I know we just started, but I'd like to hear that, and I hope you continue to do that and find time for, when Thorold needs something, Thorold can get something as well. So I appreciate that. My one question is, I always see this, is pickleball. I saw that on one of your slides. Is it there? Are you bringing it in? And the size of this thing just seems like you might be able to take care of your daytime problems with, this type of thing. Is it already there or coming in, and what's your ideas?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We did host 2 weekends ago. Last 2 weekends ago, we hosted a pickleball tournament, and we have spoken to numerous pickleball leagues. I'm not sure what they're referred to as, but it is something. It's a very, we've looked at the lines on the gym are okay for it. We could have, they could have been optimized a little bit better. We're talking about optimization. That is our goal of our company, is how do we optimize everything and increase revenues, decrease deficits. But yes, it is something that we are absolutely talking about in the community and seeing how we can fit it in. Daytime usage is a possibility for it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenters. Thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Learning a lot as we go along. And like Councillor Sentence says, I think we need to optimize this building as much as possible to get the most benefit out of it. Councillor Sentence said you return his phone calls. I've sent so many emails and I haven't had a return email, so I'm not sure if they're not getting to you or not. But anyways, for that reason, I have a lot of questions that haven't been answered. So I'll start with that. Councillor D'Angelo touched on operational losses, trying to understand the budget. What's the operational loss projected to be for 2023? Do you know that number?
That you'd have to get the number from the management committee.
Okay, thanks. And I'm going to jump around a bit here because I made some notes, so bear with me. We talked about this available dressing room, which is news to me. That's good to hear. Does Brock pay for its 2 dressing rooms? Do they have a contractual agreement to pay for the men's and women's dressing room?
Yes, there is an agreement with them, and some of it is built into the overall. I guess, the original consortium agreement. I don't know if it's the consortium agreement or the tenancy agreement. There's a number of different agreements, so I apologize. I'm not speaking
Yeah.
directly to
No.
all of them.
And again, I know you don't have all the details because you came in after the fact, so my only concern is, from what I understand, is there is no fee for it, and I'm not sure why we're gonna try to market this out to a community group, but I'll leave that with you and the management committee to try to sort out. Because I think we need to be fair with all tenants of this facility. You mentioned that Brock is using 3 courts, and they're using them from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. So my quick math is that's 55 hours times 3, so 165 hours a week. Are they paying for this time?
So they have first right to that time periods. So basically, that's been allocated to them in terms of what they have first option to that space in terms of the way that it's been outlined in the performa. And then any space that they use, they pay for it. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you for that. So that explains, and I am a frequent user of the facility. I do use the walking track a fair bit, but I do see the gym unused for hours at a time. So back to Councillor Sentence, I really think there should be some daytime activity. Hopefully you can work with the management group. I think pickleball would be ideal. There are hours upon hours of unused time. And sorry, Mr. Mayor, for taking it in this format, but I really believe you maybe want to investigate what the Meridian Center does in Fawn Hill with punch cards and pickleball, and maybe even people who want to come in and shoot hoops, because people are not aware of what they can do at this building, and to see it sit empty for hours upon hours is not the way we need to go. So again, something else I'll leave you with, okay? And I hope I'm being fair. I don't want a lot of answers because I know you can't give them to me. The outdoor track, how many 2023 events do you have booked? Do you know?
About 3 right now that are
For this year, or for outdoor track and field?
correct.
There are 3?
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm glad to hear it's being used. The city has put in a request, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter. The city has put in a request to be a permit holder and pay for track time, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., starting in September 1st. Has that been approved or authorized by the consortium group?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. And do you know when it'll be looked at? Or has it been looked at and not approved?
I can't speak to the management committee of what they've reviewed on it. For us, we are aware of that, and then we are working on the new allocation policy that includes not just ice surfaces, gymnasiums, but also walking tracks, and how we would allocate those to both community and to high performance requests.
Okay, thank you. I'll just make a comment on that. Being a primary tenant, I believe we should trump high-performance outside groups, but that's just one councillor's opinion. You mentioned, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter, you mentioned there's intramural hockey going on, sometimes until 2 in the morning, I see. But the facility's only open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Why do we do this?
So the facility is open later for the user groups, so if there's ice rentals, but in terms of for just general people coming in to use the walking facilities, because typically our staff is reduced at that point in time, and they're focused more on the cleanliness of the building and the operations of the ice pads.
Okay, again, I'll make a comment, Mr. Mayor. I'm concerned about that because the facility, and we know it operates at a loss, but to extend the hours makes it lose more, in my opinion. I'm not sure how this was approved or got to this point, but it's something I hope
Sorry, I
consortium
could probably
looks at?
clarify, so I really apologize through you, Mr. Mayor. I can, so again, within that utilization of the ice time that was included in the PKF, performa, in the performa that was included with the consortium agreement, the management agreement, and so on, the ice is allocated for Brock University intramurals in that chart. So that exists, and that's why it is open until that time period.
Okay, thank you for that. I've read that perform a few times. I've never seen that, but that's fine. You talked about tenancy in there. We were told that the facility would generate tenant income to decrease operational losses. You confident we can fill these places, these tenants, commercial tenancy spaces soon?
We are going to work as hard as we can to fill them. There is interest right now. We are having conversations with organizations who would like to be in those spaces. We are at, we're talking to them about market rates or at market rates and so on. So we have to be confident that we can compete with any other similar space out there to attract them in.
Okay, and the current tenants, the BFIT and CSIO and Sport Niagara, are they paying the pro forma rates that were agreed to?
Yes, so the CSIO, the BFIT is paying those rates, and the CSIO, Sport Niagara, it's just the end of their venue usage agreement time period with that. That was part of the games period, so this is post games legacy. So their rates they will pay market rates as well.
Okay, thank you. One of the user groups, through you, Mr. Mayor, one of the user groups, one of the track clubs, when I spoke to the manager, coach, had mentioned that he wanted to have track rental times on weekends, but he was denied that. Is that something we could work with these groups? And that way we maybe could possibly free up some primetime weekdays for residents?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we look at it as from a safety point of view. So on weekends, we're extremely busy with tournaments, and if you come in, there's many tournaments that are going on in the courts that generate far greater revenue than what a track rental would do. And in order to maintain a safety element, and so people are not running around with lots, because there's a lot of people in there, we have chosen not to do rentals during our prime time hours on the weekends for a safety reason.
Okay.
And revenue.
All right. At this point, I don't have any further questions. I do really appreciate you coming here tonight and answering the questions the way you did.
Thank you. And also, council, if you can get our emails addresses or phone numbers and call us at any point in time. So
thank you. I appreciate that. I have sent numerous emails that have been forwarded to you, but I haven't received a response. So maybe if I do have your email address and phone number, I can deal directly with you.
Happy to provide.
And that was a question I had written down here. For question, how and who do we direct to? But you just answered. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, and thanks for coming out this evening. My question was also about pickleball. I've had a few people ask if at some point you will have pickleball at the facility. I just wanted to say that it's great to be able to go out there and use the indoor and outdoor. And there are quite a few people from Thorold that use the track. And I have been spreading the word. I guess some people really don't know that they can actually go in there and park for free and just go walk the track. So how do we get the word out to our residents and other residents that you can do that? Because a lot of people are unaware, even though we're trying to spread the word, and I'll say to them, you got to really go check it out, and it's pretty awesome. And I've even brought my little great niece. She'll run the track, but I walk the track. So how do we get the word out? Like, do we put it on our website? Do we publicize this somewhere? Like, how do we do that, Jeff?
Yeah, great question through you, Mr. Mayor. Your communications department has been very helpful in sharing some of our communications. Our website is up and running. We have social feeds, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. I think over time there will be a little more as groups come in. We do see that the tracks are very, very well used. But just with the community, and trying to do that, I think some of the community events that we'll see that we're working on that are more of the charitable side, not for profit, should also help spread the word a little bit.
That's great. And I know that the TCAG uses the indoor facility for volleyball, and they will be using the beach volleyball courts as well this summer, so that's wonderful to hear that as well. So thank you again for coming out this evening.
Thank you, Mike. Councillor Dividitis, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for coming in. I know we all want to get to utilize as much as we can, but I think your company is going to do a great job. I have a total confidence in you. It's a beast to run the first year. It takes some time. There's going to be some ups and downs. It's hard to make everybody happy, but I think you're going to do it, and I'm totally confident your company's the best one to do this job. I mean, you have my support, and I know it's going to work.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you both for coming in tonight and giving us your time. Just a quick question. How many employees are at the site from your end?
Let me just
a ballpark figure's fine.
12 to 15 full-time employees that are dedicated to that.
Okay. And are any unionized or?
No.
Employees? No, okay. But they're all earning a livable wage?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just want to circle back to the one issue regarding parking. You mentioned you're looking at potentially towing. Is there a better option of looking at just ticketing some of these vehicles? And if so, would that be something that the City of Thorold could help and assist with you? Because I know we're hiring some more bylaw enforcement officers and also parking enforcement officers. Towing is extreme. Ticketing is basically a slap on the wrist to say, hey, don't be doing this. Towing is very, very extreme. So is that something that you could take back and maybe look at and see how we can help out? And if we can we or someone can collect parking ticket fines for people that are not utilizing the facility and utilizing it for other parking purposes, that helps generate revenue, which again reduces losses. Is that something that you can take back with you?
Absolutely, yes. And through you, Mr. Mayor, we do a ticket, like a kind of a warning process first, and then track license plate numbers. So it's not an immediate tow, it's not a fineable or it doesn't go on your license. So this is something I can definitely look into as an option.
Yeah, and the second question to you, Mr. Mayor, in terms of any potential expansion, I know there's a track and there's a field in the center. Is that field capable of having soccer played on it? Is it large enough for that? And if so, is there an opportunity maybe to turf it? Because I know that's something our community's looking at in different venue, but it may not happen. But I know our soccer association would love something like that. Is that something that you can take back to the management group and see if that's something that could be enhanced? Again, adding more utilization to what's there. I know there'll be additional cost, but once it's in, then it shouldn't be too bad in terms of managing that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we've actually explored this just recently, looking at it for both field lacrosse and for soccer. There is some size restrictions that we would have to work within. And turfing the field, we would have to look at utilization if javelins don't stick into turf. So depending on what it's used for long term and what the restrictions are around that. But as something that we absolutely have looked at going forward and are evaluating just right now. Not necessarily for this season, but for future.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's important when we're talking about utilization to maximize it out there. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff and Laura. And I really appreciate you coming to council and asking some questions. And I think there were some good suggestions here as well that you can utilize. And as well, we look forward to having you back on a regular basis as we move forward and work together to utilize this facility. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next, we have delegation on report PWCS 41-2023 respecting Port Robinson East Traffic Safety Review Update. And Ron Devereaux, resident from Port Robinson. I'll call on Ron for his delegation on the report PWCS 41-23 concerning Port Robinson East Traffic Safety Review Update. I will remind everyone present this item is only for information purposes. Additionally, Mr. Devereaux, as you have already spoken on this matter before council, you must only provide new information today. You will have 10 minutes to speak, followed by questions from members of council. So welcome, Mr. Devereaux.
Thank you, Mayor Ugolini, councilors and staff, to be able to advocate for Port Robinson East. There's lots of new information here. Don't worry about that. My information to council is always factual. My research is based on common sense, logical, rational, objective, critical thinking. The new information provided in many of the 7 answers given in the staff report on agenda page 466 are vague and incomplete. So that creates more questions and problems. Photo number 1, please. New information on repaving River Street. In the report, answer number 7 states that repaving of River Street from Cross Street to South Street North is not in the 2023 budget. The recent photos provided to me by members of the Port Robinson Taxpayers Association show some of the deteriorated pavement conditions on River Street. Photo number 2, please. Further delay in repaving is totally unacceptable. In the summer of 2016, a water main was installed. The road was not properly repaved to the pre-construction condition. Photo number 3, please. The road was just patched and continues to be only patched and repatched. The result is its ongoing rough, deteriorating condition. Reality check. This is a huge sore spot and aggravation in Port Robinson when this essential repaving keeps getting annually pushed aside. Photo number 4, please. We see recent spending on seasonal projects used for only a few months of the year, like the permanent washroom in Port Robinson Park, rehabilitation of the baseball diamond, a water line to the baseball diamond, and an outfield fence around the baseball field. Therefore, they have been leapfrogged over what the residents feel are everyday, higher, year-round priorities. In Port Robinson, we don't have door-to-door mail delivery. To get our mail daily, we have to drive to and from the post office over this aggravating, rough road. Question number 1. So what other evidence is necessary for it to be finally repaved in 2023? Photo number 5, please. New information related to answer number 5 of city staff having no police report on the February 3rd, 2023 guardrail accident. I know the incident report number. Question number 2. But more than 2 months after the accident, city staff hasn't been able to get it? Was the police member of the Road Safety Committee not asked to expedite for you the request for the accident report? More new information regarding answers 1 and 2 on the damage to the guardrail. The report says there are no budget impacts at this time, but the whole guardrail replacement cost was basically $71,000 plus GST. Approximately 10% of the guardrail was wiped out in the February 3rd accident. Simple math says that the driver or his insurance company is on the hook for about $7,100 in damages in GST, unless it's the official city policy to allow destruction of city property without repercussions for the known perpetrators. As a Thorold taxpayer, it's common sense to ask, why should taxpayers have to foot the bill for this damage? Photo number 6, please. More new information regarding answers 1 and 2 about the guardrail. Looking north at the south end, the new guardrail is longer than the old guardrail when combined with the new yellow and black diagonal sign. Photo number 7, please. Looking south, therefore, the width of the pre-existing driveway entrance off of River Street has been reduced by about 50%. And the way that the Public Works staff has mounted up the gravel also obstructs the driveway's use. Easy solution. Add more gravel to restore the driveway's original width, then rake the gravel to create a gentle grade of the driveway down from the existing higher grade level of River Street. This time-sensitive remedy is needed immediately as follows. Photo number 8, please. Since 1974, this important driveway has provided access for parking for spring, summer, and fall use of the slope natural ramp down to the water's edge to the southeast corner, or in the southeast corner of the creek's western bank. The slope is the solid white area shown in the center of this photo view from the bridge. And you can see at the top there's a row of concrete barriers. The slope is not an environmentally sensitive area. Since 1974, it's been a canoe, kayak, and small boat recreational launching area. It's the only public access launching point to the creek in all of Port Robinson East. Photo number 9, please. To make a long story short, after a bush hogging incident in mid-October, city staff incorrectly placed concrete barriers across the top of the slope natural ramp, now preventing all access to the water by kayakers, canoers, and boaters. You can see, looking right down the middle of the photo, that's the ramp area. Photo number 10, please. The barriers were supposed to be placed only across the entrance to the bush hogged area. As specified by the R.J. Burnside report, there is a time-sensitive need to have the turtle nesting mounds completed in the bush hogged area by April 30th, by the April 30th, 2023 deadline. Question number 3. Is this deadline going to be met, and who's going to do the work, the city or a contractor? Since this is the only council meeting before the deadline, this question needs to be answered tonight. Photo number 11, please. In the Burnside design, the location of the turtle nesting mounds is the 3 mounds shown on the left side. Photo number 11. The operation to move the concrete barriers to where they are supposed to be, which is across the entrance to the bush hogged area, would need to be coordinated with the operation to bring in and dump the sand gravel material for the turtle mounds, to prevent any logistical conflicts between these two simultaneous operations. With 24 hours prior notice by phone, I will gladly meet with city staff on site to explain and verify the locations for these placements. They can contact me by phone or email. How much time do I have, Mr. Mayor?
2 minutes, 50 seconds.
2:50? Thank you. I'm going to ad-lib the rest of this. On October 17th of 2022, I sent an email to the city. This is related to the area of River Street that is in front of the residence of address number 36, which is a very long frontage. Before repaving of River Street, this area needs to be upgraded. It's in very poor condition. Normally between the street, at the edge of the street and the sidewalk in this area, it's a grassy area. But for years and years and years, because of limited parking along here, it's used for the vehicles are parked on it. It used to be grass, now it's mud. And some are deep potholes there. So on October 17th, I sent a memo to this email to the city asking them to contact the new owner at that address. They've been there for about a year. They've been working extremely hard to upgrade that property from, it was a very much an eyesore for so many years. What they would like is the full length of their property between the street and the sidewalk, remove the mud and the grass, and actually all the way to the corner of Cross Street, and put in a gravel pad. That way that would be more appropriate for the parking needs, especially the parking that is extremely restricted, areas extremely restricted there, and there's no on-street parking in that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Devereaux, and I'll open the floor for questions. Go ahead, Councillor Dividine.
Mr. Dever, I appreciate you coming in here, but I don't appreciate how you're always so rude to the staff. Constant emails, always bugging people. I've been in business for 35 years, and we had a customer come in our place and always do that, and my father asked him to leave. I go, Dad, why? Because he's never happy. That's why I'm like, customers like that, we don't need it.
Keep it questions, please.
I just wish you would just be a little bit more respectful to the staff.
If I could respond
That's
to
all I
that.
want.
Am I allowed to respond to that? Thank you. Unfortunately, the city staff, I've lived in Port Robinson for over 37 years. I am well-known, well-recognized in the Port Robinson area as a community resource person and as a leader on many local projects. I am always open and to be cooperative with city staff on the basis of my position in the community as a community resource person. Unfortunately, this is not new. I have told many of the councilors this. I can send numerous emails and resend and resend and resend because I never get acknowledgement of my emails. I never get answers to my emails. That's why I have to come here as well. So there needs to be a complete revision, thanks for asking, a complete review of customer service attitudes, public service attitudes towards the taxpayers of Thorold.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Devereaux. Any further questions for Mr. Devereaux? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Mr. Mayor, I don't really have a particular question to Mr. Devereaux, but one of the items he brought up was the turtle ponds, and I know we've been working on that. In the mayor's address, you brought up the fact that Councillor O'Hare worked at the school to get the barn swallow boxes and the bat boxes made.
When the report goes on the floor, he can answer that question, Councillor.
Well, yeah, just if we could get
Yeah,
that.
we'll get that answer.
Just because it's time sensitive, I know we've been bringing this forward, and to me, that's a big concern. I know there's other issues there that we have to work through collectively, but some of them are more time sensitive than others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Questions only. The report will go on the floor. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
That's through Mr. Mayor. Can I put a question to staff right now, or?
No, it's to the presenter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you. You got a question or presenter?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know the report's coming out later regarding the traffic study that was done. I did have a chance to talk to Mr. Santo earlier, that we have a couple of those machines that will monitor speeds. Through you, Mr. Mayor, if can we work with you to find the locations that might be best suited to help with the traffic calming in that area with those speed enforcements? I know it's going to go, one of the recommendations is it's going to go to the Community Road Safety Committee, and we're going to have some discussion there, but I think we may circle back and ask you for some bit of help to locate those two machines that we currently have in stock, and I know there's a few more coming. So is that something you can help us out with, Mr.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to do that. I have sent emails to the city numerous times with that information. I can suggest the starting locations. I can suggest alternate locations so that we can rotate them around.
Okay, excellent.
No problem.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Devereaux, for coming to council tonight and making your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll put the report on the floor. Report PWCS 41-2023, respecting Port Robinson East Traffic Safety Review update. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that report? I got Councillor DeAngelo and Councillor Sentence. This report is for information only. Is there any discussion? And Jeff Holman's here, Director of Public Works and Community Services, I'm sure can answer, as well as he's got associated staff. So go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to ask too many questions right now because it's going to go to the Road Safety Committee, so I think there could be a more wholesome debate or discussion there, and then work with staff in terms of coming up with a plan to move forward to improve the safety in that area. The one thing I just wanted to add, if this is something that can be done, I'm not sure where, is it South Street? The road that we had pictures just shown there, sorry, the name escapes me right now, where Mr. Devereaux asked for the road upgrade. If we could have maybe a little bit more information going to the Road Safety Committee regarding when that might be scheduled to be repaved, and if there's any ballpark costs that are associated with that. So I'm not looking for an answer tonight, Mr. Mayor.
No, but
I'm just referring it to the Road Safety Committee as part of their
well, with staff's gonna have to provide that information.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, but I think that'd be good, useful information, because if we're making some enhancements for safety, maybe looking at the road at that point in time might be a good synergistic view of working to get a problem solved there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further comments for staff or questions? Okay, I had a mover and seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we're gonna move on to report DS 2023. Yeah, it's a delegation, sorry. Delegation report DS 2023 respecting removal of holding on 2 South Main Street. And I'll call on Ken Longfellow for a delegation respecting report DS 2023 concerning the removal of holding 2 South Main Street. You will have 10 minutes to speak, followed by questions of members of council. And is he on Zoom?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, and Ken, are you there?
There we go. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I'm on this because of the property at 2 South Main Street that I've been through before on December, sometime December, in the first meeting, concerned with what's going to happen when there's several houses or several households on that corner that aren't there right now. And the fact that having a number of cars in a very sensitive position could involve some serious consequences. I received a copy of the traffic survey, or whatever they call it, which was done in December, January 23rd, which I don't take as an average day, but anyway, that's what was done. It predicted that although the traffic flow in itself was not something I was concerned about, only the traffic that would accumulate at that corner, they predicted 3 extra trips, and there are actually 4 new residences being built on that property. And since there's more than 1 car per household in this development, and most of those cars are parked in the driveways because the garages are used for storage purposes, the chances are that there's going to be some cars parked out on the road. That's the access point for 50 houses in this development. And my concern is that it will be an impediment to emergency vehicles and just generally a traffic snarl should a number of people want to exit at the same time, or which way you like to look at it. The point with the 50 houses is I don't know who else got information on this activity when this new build was undertaken. I only know that myself and a few of my close neighbors, and apparently that's because the information is only sent to 120 meters from the source, or 120 something, whatever it was, whereas that's a tiny fraction of the actual area. So I seem to be the only one that's doing anything about this because I drive through there all the time. But we have potentially 75 cars, I would say, that are making trips in and out of here. The traffic survey, I didn't add all up to the numbers, but the traffic flows quite well the way it is right now. When there are cars on the street where this housing development is being made, and or cars coming out of the driveway onto South Main, which is the main in and out for the development, there's going to be some conflicts there. And I don't know if anything can be done about it now, but I would like to make my feelings known. This predicting 3 cars, I don't know how their flow patterns would change because of that. Because if they look at how many cars might really be there, on average, most of us have more than one in the driveway. I have some other notes here. One thing we also don't know from the information that we've got, there's no elevation shown on the drawing, so we don't know what the building is going to look like, other than the fact that the house adjacent to the property on South Main, when this is built, is going to have a brick wall at their backyard. We all look out over a fence, then we look through another backyard to another house, so there's some distance. This project is being built very close to the property line, which basically is just behind their fence, and their enjoyment is going to suffer somewhat. And also, I was wondering, are these units going to be rented or sold? The reason I ask is I've had some bad experience with rental properties and people who don't really tend to care very well for them, which would be a detriment to our area here. That's basically all I have to say at this point. I'm just checking to see if my notes carry anything more. It's basically that traffic assisting system, what do you call it, congealing at that point. The traffic flow as it is right now is not a problem. I apparently have caused this traffic survey to be made. I didn't realize that was going to happen. It was telling us solutions for a problem we don't have. The problem we will have is when these places are built, and if my prediction of the number of cars is valid, and I would really hate to hear of anybody being hurt or worse because of somebody trying to come around the corner too quickly and there's cars on their side of the road. Going straight through the intersection onto, what's the other one called? Bigger, when you go straight through the intersection, as you're coming in, the cars parked, if there are any, would be on the other side of the road, not bothering you. As you come into the development and turn down South Main on the right-hand side of the road is where there's potential for cars being there because they haven't got room in their driveways for the visitors, or they haven't got room for their own cars or whatever. I just think that's a very dangerous situation. So I would appreciate any comeback from that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken, and thank you for your presentation. I'll open the floor if there are any questions for Ken. Seeing none, Ken, once again, thank you for your presentation. And now I'm going to put the report on the floor, which is DS 2023, removal of holding 2 South Main Street. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Sentence and Councillor Dividitis. And any discussion on that report? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It mentions in the report the city's engineering department and development service department have further reviewed this matter and are satisfied that considerations relating to traffic impacts have been addressed. Can anybody from engineering comment on that tonight?
I don't know, but I don't know if Jeff, can you comment on that, or?
So this would have been reviewed, Mr. Mayor, through our engineering group, but it may be something that you want to refer to the Safe Roads Committee as well. One of the options that we looked at in the traffic safety review was to look at a stop control at Bigger Street and River, which could potentially impact the intersection of Bigger and South Street. The traffic study looks only at the volume of traffic and the suitability of the roads, but I think if we're anticipating more traffic to be coming to the Eco Park, we may want to look at some type of stop control at that location. They can't be too close together. They have to be equally spaced. And with the stop control, there are some restrictions on where on-street parking can take place. So corner properties are, it's really, really sensitive to traffic. you know, we can look at the study again. I know that it says that the contribution from this development is going to only marginally increase the volume of traffic in that area, but perhaps we need to look at not just the impact of the volume of traffic, but the location of the intersection and how it might tie into some of the improvements we want to take and make on River Street.
Thank you. So do we want to, before I put it back, go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just wanted to share a little bit of information. There were some concerns raised with regards to vehicles being parked on the street at the intersection. The City of Thorold's parking and traffic bylaw does prohibit parking on the street within 10 meters of an intersection for the purpose of ensuring that there's proper line of sight and maneuverability for emergency vehicles. So that might help mitigate some of the concerns as well.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given the information that our Director of Operations has given us, I'd like to refer this to the Road Safety Committee. And
Well, should we refer it to engineering and then to the road safety?
Well, yeah, I refer a report to go back to the Road Safety Committee from engineering so that we can move it through that process.
So that's the motion. Can I get a seconder? Because there'll be no debate on that. Okay, I have a seconder, Councillor DeRose, and a mover was Councillor DeAngelo. That we refer this back to engineering and the road safety group. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Items for consent. Okay, so is there a mover and a seconder, first of all, for the consent items, because whether we take them off or not, we'll use the same mover and seconder, Councillor Longo and Councillor Decker. Do any councillors want to lift any consent items, 11.1 through 11.5, 11.7 through 11.18, and 11.21, 11.23 through 11.27? Anybody who wants to pull an item, let me know and we'll start. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
I have 11.1, 11.4, 11.9, 11.10, 11.12, 11.22, and 11.27.
You had 11.10. What was after 11.10?
11.12.
Yeah.
11.22.
Yeah.
And 11.22 is crossed out because we discussed that already. So it's 11.27.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just because there was a list there, are all of those to be lifted, or are some of those just to ask questions?
Yeah, because
some are to ask questions, but some may lead to staff directions. So until I ask the questions, I don't know where we're going with some of this stuff.
Okay. So let's go, Councillor O'Hara. I've got them marked down.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 11.8, please.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
11.24, please, Mr. Mayor.
11.24. Okay. Okay. We're going to start with the pulled items because we got a list. Okay. 11.1. Okay. 11.1 is accounts payable to March 23rd, 23. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have several questions regarding some of the expenditures that are coming forward. And just if I could get some further information, if it's not available, then it could be sent out to us later, but I just want to highlight some of the items.
Go ahead.
And then also, I just wanted to declare a conflict on a check that's been made out to myself. It's under the Committee of Adjustments. It's part of the honorarium for 2022. So I'd just like to declare a conflict on that. Okay, just the questions I have, the first one is under members of council. There was legal fees of $2761.26 to Air and Burles LLP. Can someone just give me a highlight of what that was for?
Okay, would you be the one that would answer that, or would that be Manoj?
For you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have the specifics of that particular invoice. We could provide that to you after.
Sure, yep, that's fine. That satisfies me. go to the next item, the check. And I think I have the answer here, but I just want confirmation. This is regarding crossing guards. We pay the city of St. Catharines. It says crossing guard for 2022, and it was about $7,516.17. I don't want to assume, but I believe that's to pay for probably a crossing guard on St. David's that we share, but I would always like an answer. If someone can answer that.
Jason or Kate, do you know?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. There's, I believe, Steve may be able to correct me, at least one crossing guard, possibly two crossing guards that are on St. David's Road. They are employed by the city of St. Catharines, and the city of Thorold just pays their share.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one's a curiosity question. This is Minister of Finance. It's on page 35 of the public agenda, but there's registration and licenses, and there's about 20, not 20, maybe about 10 to 12 of them. I thought the government did away with registering vehicles. Is this registering vehicles, or is that still a cost to the city, and they've only eliminated registration for personal vehicles, not commercial vehicles? If someone can answer that question.
I don't have that answer. Kate, do you? Or Steve?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we do have to pay for the registration for commercial vehicles.
Okay, all right. I don't think the general public knew that, but they know now. Next one is, and I know the answer to this one, but there's a secondary part of it. The transit service, we made 2 payments in December to the St. Catharines Transit Commission. I know later in the accounts payable, we make a payment to the Niagara Transit Commission. My question on that is, I know I had my earlier tax bill this year. Is that transit cost going to be identified separately on our tax bills when they come out for the second installment, third and fourth installment?
My understanding, yes, and can you verify that, Kate?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the transit levy will be shown separately on the tax bills for the final installments.
Okay, excellent. Because it's a separate entity that we're paying, and it's similar to the hospital, which is a separate entity, the Canada Summer Games Park, which is another separate entity, can we have that identified as a separate item on the tax bill also? Through you, Mr. Mayor, is that something that's possible? I don't need an answer right now.
I don't have that answer.
Okay, can you refer that to finance and they could get back to me with an answer?
Yeah.
Also, Mr. Mayor, there's a couple of checks I've written to the Canada Summer Games. Just for openness and transparency, their amounts were $63,850, but I think that includes ice allocation costs that we have to pay for. Is that something that we could send to councillors so they have a breakdown of what that payment is actually for?
Okay.
Again, just referring it to finance.
I do believe those initial 2 payments were just strictly the contributions. Normally, we receive the subsidy or the ICE buybacks in a separate invoice.
Okay, all right, so we haven't received those yet then, okay.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, that's it for the question. Oh, actually, I have one more question in terms of the accounts payable. There was a lot of, in this particular accounts payable, there was a lot of bills to Rogers Wireless. I counted almost over 300 allocations to Rogers Wireless, but then I also saw allocations to Bell Canada. So I wanted to direct staff maybe to do a review of our phone costs and review that to the city policy. You'll probably need a motion for that, but I think we need to review that, because if we have cell phones and we have landlines, are we duplicating some of our costs throughout our organization? And is there a way of saving some money there? Because there was a lot of charges for the wireless ones. And is our cell phone policy consistent with other municipalities? So I'd like to see some comparison there.
That'll be done under, you have to do that under a separate motion. This is just accounts payable.
Okay.
So if you want to bring that up under notice of motion, that's
Sure,
fine.
I'll do that then. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. That was it for that section.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so before we move on to 11.4, we had a mover and a seconder for, now we have 11.1 to 11.3. So I can do them as we go along. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now we'll go to 11.4. Who pulled that? I think you did.
That was me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. The question I have, this one's for the planning department. In the report here, it says the new position will monitor and coordinate all applications within the division to minimize circumstances that may result in the municipality having to refund applications. Are we refunding applications because the timeline is passing? Through you, Mr. Mayor, if we can have that question
Jason,
answered.
go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with the new regulations passed, or the amendments to the Planning Act that the province recently passed, effective July 1st, we will have to start refunding application fees to developers if we do not meet the timelines. There is a lot of concern right now that we will not be meeting the timelines. And so this position will be taking a lot of the administrative functions off of the plate of the existing planning staff, as well as keeping a close eye on those timelines to make sure, and there's a lot of coordination with external stakeholders as well. That takes up a lot of time, so this individual will be responsible for that, to hold everybody to those timelines in addition to managing the files.
Okay, well, I want to commend staff for working proactively to put this in place with the adjustments so that we're not missing out on development fees. So kudos to them on that one. That's all I had for 11.4, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so 11.4, 11.5, and 11.7. I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So now we're on 11.8, and I think that was, who pulled 11.8? That was Councillor O'Hare. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions about this site alteration. We know that that this application is now past its 1-year period and therefore no longer able to be regarded as effective anymore or usable. So from my understanding is that there still are more cubic meters of soil to be dumped on the site, and according to the report that I read, 500 more cubic meters still to be dumped. Now, I have a couple of questions. First off, we know that there's already been a lot of haulage and dumpage on the site, and I just want to make sure of a couple of things. One is that because they're keeping this number below the 1,000 cubic meters required before council is notified and this is brought to our attention, how do we monitor this from this point on to make sure that it does in fact stay below this number that they're stipulating or stating that they will be dumping on the site? So they're saying only 500 cubic meters more. Are we monitoring this? How do we know that that number is being tested, regarded?
Jeff, can you answer that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Good questions. I think because the site plan has been prepared, and at the end of the day, we're going to need to have the project engineer to certify the quantity of material that's dumped. All we can do is wait till they're finished and make sure it complies with, what they've proposed to do. We don't have any control over when the material gets delivered, and it usually doesn't happen all at once. Sometimes it's a couple of trucks a week, depending on where the source is coming from. I think in this case it's coming from St. Catharines.
Mm-hmm.
So the only real checks and balances in place are when they're finished.
Okay, so are we going to, through you, Mr. Mayor, are we going to be able to evaluate that berm and recognize whether or not it has exceeded the cubic meters that they expressed they would be dumping there. Is that a visual thing? Because if you've been out to the site, it's huge. The amount that they've put there, I think the original application was 16,000 cubic tons. So that's a lot of dumping that would have gone on there, and a lot has, in fact. So how are we going to ascertain that what has been dumped there has stayed within the boundary that they were requesting and allowed to continue to dump?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can continue to monitor the activity there and ask for verification from the applicant's consultant to get a better quantification on the material dropped there. The primary concern really is, tracking of mud and fouling of the road and that type of thing. This is kind of a new process for us that we implemented a couple of years ago. And, we haven't really put a lot of thought into maybe as much as we need to on, checking during the process. I think it's fair to assume that as things dry up, the activity will increase a little bit more, and we can ask for an interim report from the consulting engineer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I understand that there was testing at the site in St. Catharines, soil tests throughout the area where they were taking the soil. How do we know that that soil is in fact the soil being dumped on the site, and do we test that site as well after they're completed to make sure that there isn't contaminated soil being dumped there?
Mr. Mayor, we can ask for additional testing to be done to confirm the source, but generally speaking, if it's tested on site, the consultant has to verify that that material has actually gone to the right location.
Okay. I think it would be prudent, though, to at some point test the site because it's a very large site. Also, there's in the drawings, you can see there's a silt fence that has been designed to encircle the berm, and that seems to have deteriorated over the winter and is not serving the purpose that it was meant to serve. So I wonder if that can be drawn to the attention of the haulage company or the developer to make sure that that is repaired and in place as well. There are wetlands on that property. So this is why these measures are important to be healthy and put in place, and also to make sure that there is no contamination on this very important area.
Any further questions regarding that? Okay. We might as well do that as we go. I got a mover and a seconder for that report. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We're using the same mover seconder. Yep. And now I had 11.9. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was addressed earlier, but just reinforcing, that was River Street. We were referring that information to go back to the Traffic Safety Committee regarding the road paving and where it is in the timeline and what a ballpark cost would be for something like that. Okay.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so 11.9, we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 11.10.
Again, that was me, Mr. Mayor. I'm bringing this one up. This is a tender award for our rural roads. There's 3 that have been selected. Just want to commend staff for getting this out real early and that they're looking at commencement of repairing these or redoing these roads, specifically Turner Road, which is in horrendous shape. That's going to be redone by the end of September. The only comment I would make is it is a bit of an artery to get to Port Robinson West. So when the work is being done, if there could be ample indication that the road is closed, because you have to get on Turner Road to keep going down Kottmeyer. And you don't want people just going down that and then getting stuck and then turning in the neighbor's lawn and then going around. So just a bit of a heads up to give ample warning when the road is closed for the construction. Thank you.
Thank you. So we got 1110 now, that one, and the next one, nobody pulled, which is the Merritt Meadows Phase 3, 1111. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So now we're on 1112. And Councilor DeAngelo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one here, I just want to make a few comments on the, this is a tender award for the West Sound Barrier of Phase 2 of Confederation Heights. It didn't say where the costs are being picked up. Is this a development charge item that we're recovering costs for? It's about $250,000 that we're replacing the sound barrier. And when I saw this subdivision being developed 10, 15 years ago, I questioned why they would put wood on a sound barrier. Because when you look at other highways, it's always concrete and it lasts a lot longer. Here now we're replacing it, but is it the taxpayer paying for this, or is it the developers who are putting it towards development charges repaying for this? And if so, if taxpayers are paying, we should really address the policy and making sure that we have a better quality sound barrier in future developments, or the taxpayers are going to be on the hook for future repairs as we move along. So just a couple questions there. If they can't be answered tonight, that would be fine.
Jeff, do you want to answer that?
I can say that this is not being funded from development charges. It's not a project that's eligible. But in the future, we should be looking at some type of perpetual care fund if it's not eligible, so that the replacement is not fall on the backs of the taxpayer. We had some discussions back when Confederation West was being developed, at least the last phase, and the standard that is now approved by the Ministry of Transportation is a little bit more than what happened 15 years ago. But still, the risk is there for the corporation to have to pick up the cost of replacing these panels at some point in the future.
Mr. Mayor, that's great to hear that we're looking at a potential change in our policy, especially with development. Again, it's always great, we have these great developments, but then they always fall back on the taxpayers at the end of the day and have to pay for all the costs of these additional stuff because it wasn't done in a more proper manner where these items last a lot longer. So my point's been made, and staff seems to see that point and are trying to address it for the citizens of Thorold. Great, thank you.
And did you want to comment, Councillor O'Hare?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Holman. Having looked at the drawings, Mr. Holman, I see that there's some random sections of the sound barrier that have fallen down or in need of repair. Are all of the ones that have to be replaced, are they from the original installation?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes.
Good, thank you.
Any further? Okay, so we got 1112. Then we're going to do as well 1113, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 21 and 22 have been pulled. No, 19 and 20 have been pulled. So now we got 21.
It's okay. The next one pulled is 24. So we can do 24, and then the motion will include 21 and 23 if you want.
So we're doing 21 and 23.
These were not pulled, so if you want to call the question.
Yeah. 21 and 23 weren't pulled. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And what did you want to say about 24?
Somebody pulled it. Councillor Hanley, I believe.
Did you pull that one? 24? Go
Yes.
ahead, Councillor Hanley. Go ahead.
I just want to know, to me, like, what the reasoning is. Why do we need to put this on the end of all reports? Only that if another one of committees of council come and want us to add something else to the report, I believe we don't need to do it, to have something at the end of the report. And, you know, it says to ensure that all issues associated with these topics are being considered. I think we're doing it. We had a KPMG report come forward in regards to vehicles. We're having an asset management report come forward in regards to our building. We're doing a building inventory report. We're just doing a new public works building. We're building a new fire hall. I think that we're addressing all this. And it wonders because this, to me, is, I read the Smart Cities Initiative. This is a Smart Cities Initiative. You know, and I don't want council to become that every report now has to have this at the end. I believe we're already doing it. I went today and actually looked. I looked today because I brought it up before. 2008, I came to council 15 years ago. I was actually given a certificate from the Ministry of Natural Resources for being energy efficient, looking at energy efficient. Maria Moore was here at the time. I brought in and introduced the city to electricity hedging. I actually, you know, I wish in this new building that the city's building, the Public Works building, some of these other groups that have put this in and other municipalities have now come back to their councils and asked that they also initiate the elimination of natural gas furnaces and any new builds. It's happening in Vancouver and it's happening here in Niagara. They're wanting to do it, and I don't believe this is a path that council we should be going down. We already do it, and I don't like items like this to be added to the end of all these, to make sure that these topics are considered by the city authorities and recommendations to council. What happens if another user group comes to the city and wants to add a paragraph at the end? Do we accept it?
The clerk wants to speak on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through you to all of council, really. So this came from one of the committees of council. One of your committees is recommending that this is some information they'd like to see attached to the reports. Again, it's really within council's discretion to determine how you would like your reports to see or to be read, whether or not to include it. If there's uncertainty or you need some more information, perhaps another councillor might want to refer it back to staff for more information, perhaps on how other municipalities might be dealing with a similar aspect or how they're managing their reports.
Yeah, my concern is this is going to be a lead-in to something else down the road. Okay. And then we're gonna come back and say, well, we already accepted this. Now we have to go this road. Now we're already down that road. And I don't believe we need to be adding anything to any of our reports. I think we're a responsible government here. We're a responsible municipality. We're looking out for the environment. I just look at all the reports that come forward here and what we're doing as a council in the whole already. And I can support it. I don't believe we need to have anything added to the end of our reports. We're doing a fine job already.
Councillor Longo, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just speak on this if I could. I sit on this committee along with Councillor O'Hare. They're asking for a resolution, and the resolution is, like Councillor Hanley says, to add something at the end of our reports that basically states if there's any environmental concerns or issues with any report. For example, most of the reports we looked at tonight have budgetary impacts. We always look at budgetary impacts. They look at our relationship to the strategic plan. This is just something that this committee wants to have included. My intention here was to bring a notice of motion tonight so that council can speak to a motion and air their concerns or support at the next council meeting. So the intention, again, I don't want to get into it too much because we'll talk about it in 3 weeks, but that's the intention of this committee and my intention of bringing a notice of motion forward later tonight.
So you're going to bring a notice of motion relating to this issue, Councillor?
I'm going to, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
So are we voting on this right now?
I'll turn this.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So presently what's before you is the memo to receive it, and it's advising you that this is the motion that was put forward by the committee. This is their recommendation to council. A councillor can certainly put that forward tonight to be dealt with. You could also refer the matter back to staff for more information. It's really up to you. It's the recommendation coming from one of your committees at present. It's not one that would require a staff report to support it, as all you're doing is amending a template, which is why it could be before you tonight for consideration, or you could defer it, or you could refer it back to staff. Those would be your options. But all that's currently on the floor is to receive the memorandum.
Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One other option would be to have a notice of motion put forward.
Which he's going to be doing.
Correct? to the clerk?
Yep, through the mayor, absolutely, you could do that as well if you only want to receive this memo at this point.
Thank you.
Counselor, go ahead, Counselor Duros.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like to refer it back to staff, just because I want to know the implications of it from a staff's perspective. I'd like to also know if other communities are doing this.
Okay,
This is
so
prevalent.
it's a referral. Do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder to refer it back to staff? Right? There's no debate on a referral. But I need a seconder. I have a mover, Counselor Hanley. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. And then there'll be a notice of motion coming. Okay? So that's referred. Now we're on to 25 and 26. They haven't been pulled. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
So, Mr. Mayor, with 25, CLKC 47, it's the runway of recognition public member appointment. So what you've done is receive the report at this time. Council, if they wishes, can approve the appointment right now, or if you had any questions on the applicant, we could receive those in closed session and deal with it after closed session. It's up to council.
Go ahead, Councilor.
I would prefer to talk about it in closed session, but that's just my opinion.
Okay.
We can do that, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. And is that the same with the, no, that's the others? Yeah. Hey, that was 25, but we've, so 25 and 26, we've already carried. Now we're on to 27, and that was pulled. And who pulled 27? Go ahead, Councilor Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking for a bit of clarity. It's a pretty self-directed motion here. But the only part that sort of confused me, they want to look at reviving the Most Patriotic program and the cost procedures. But it talks about without removing current banners. Does it mean if there's a banner that's destroyed or inappropriate, or like messed up, that we can't remove it? Like, I'm not sure what that means.
I think it means that they won't replace them, but they'll be replaced if they're afraid. But I'll let Councilor Decker answer that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can answer that question. So down Pine Street, we have all the Canada flags that are down there, so they would stay. Down on Front Street and throughout some other areas in Thorold, we have the heritage flags that will not be removed. So basically what this was brought to the special events, and we had thought perhaps maybe if council agrees and it's cost effective, maybe people could register their homes with how many flags they have. I know years and years ago we used to put flags, people would donate the flags and they would put them on everyone's lawns, and we would put all the flags down the streets and stuff like that, but we thought that would be too expensive to be replacing all the flags that we already have existing down our streets. So the request was to see how much it would cost to perhaps revive it and looking at alternative avenues of doing the Most Patriotic City.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I appreciate that. Just from past history, I was on the committee, or mayor at the time when we started it. The whole concept behind that was to sort of bring them into the gateways of Thorold. So not necessarily downtown, but like as people are driving through Pine Street, and I know it was brought up even looking at doing Port Robinson. That was the whole premise of it. So if we could expand that program through that committee, that's a great suggestion without impacting, like you said, what's downtown with the heritage banners. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And I do know, and I brought this up, but a lot of the flags along Pine Street need to be replaced. The mounts are still there, but the flags are gone. So it's something we need to get a costing on. And if it's something that needs to be brought to council, it should be, because I counted that at least half the flags going down Pine Street are not on, the mounting brackets are still there, but there's no flag. Okay? Just over time, weathered and gone. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Mr. Mayor, if you could indulge me, I was trying to get a question out earlier about the turtles and a bit of an update, but you mentioned that we should ask that at a specific report, but I wasn't sure what report you wanted that asked at. Is that something we could just ask staff, just if they can provide a bit of an update on what's going on with the turtle habitation relocation?
Absolutely. And I think because they're well on it, and I think the timelines are being respected, but do you want to send a memo out to council, or how do you want to do that? Or can you provide
even
that
just a
information
verbal.
tonight? If you can provide that right now, that's fine.
Good evening, through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor D'Angelo. This coming Friday, we have AJ Slinger Service coming to sling some material over the guardrail in Port Robinson down to the environmentally sensitive area. Walkers is also going to commit some workers to come and shape the mound, so it's all a volunteer process right now. Councillor O'Hare is in the process with the high school creating the barn swallow nest. So our firm deadline for being in and out is April 28th. So we have till April 30th. That will just leave us a small window of opportunity to remedy anything that needs it.
So you're confident we'll hit that deadline?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's great to hear, Mr. Mayor, and that's a positive news story, which is great. So now the public knows that we're right on time.
Thank you. Okay, so items for consideration, DS 17-2023, Senior Building Inspector position. Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got a mover, Councillor Longo, and a seconder, Councillor Daviditis, and I'm going to turn this over to Jason Simpson, our Director of Development Services. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just a note to the city clerk, the incorrect recommendations are on the screen. So the recommendations of this report are that report DS 17-2023 be received, and secondly, that the increased wage rate for a senior building inspector position be approved. And that concludes the recommendations.
Okay, any questions for Jason? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, second one, DS 22-2023. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? I got a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor DeRose. And I'll turn this once again over to Jason Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations of this report are, one, that the 0.3 meter reserve, described as blocks 144 and 145, Plan 59M-449, as Barker Parkway, and blocks 74 and 75, Plan 59M-460, be laid out. And two, that the necessary bylaws be prepared and presented to council. That concludes the recommendations.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Jason? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, did I get a mover and a seconder? No, I didn't. Yeah, I did, yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. PWCS 33-2023 2022 Capital Project Update Budget Adjustment. Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got Councillor D'Angelo and Councillor Decker. And I'll turn this over to Jeff Holman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recommendation is number one, that funding the amount of $13,126.27 be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2019 St. David's MTO right-of-way multi-use path. Two, that funding the amount of $8,038.48 be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2021 DeQ Trail Phase 1 project. Number three, Funding the amount of $3,061 even be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2022 guide rail repairs. Number 4, the funding the amount of $13,564.38 be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2022 traffic calming program. Number 5, the funding the amount of $54,125.54 be approved from the CCBF federal gas tax for the 2021 St. David's Road 406 to Collier Road project. Number 6, that funding the amount of $653.61 be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2021 Lynn Crescent storm repair. Number 7, that funding the amount of $4,562.38 be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2022 storm sewer repair program. Number 8, the funding in the amount of $494 even be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2021 new music amplification at the Doherty Arena. Number 9, the funding the amount of $855.49 be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2022 replacement of security cameras at the cemetery. 10, that funding the amount of $1,153.99 be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2021 repairs to ballpark dugouts and temporary mounds. 11, that funding in the amount of $625 even be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2022 replacement of the stereo amplifier system at the pool. And 12, that funding the amount of $1,417.90 be approved as a general budget overrun for the 2022 City Hall parking lot resurfacing.
Thank you. Is there any questions regarding that report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 12-4, PWCS 43-2023, 55+ skate program and public skate program extensions. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? I got a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence. And I'll turn this over to Jeff Holman, Director of Public Works and Community Service.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is one, that the extension of the 55+ skate and public skate programs at the Walker Sports and Abilities Center, Canada Games Park, be approved until the end of April. And 2, that funding in the amount of $3,320 and $1,835 respectively be allocated from the general budget as an adjustment.
Okay, and I'll open the floor for any questions. Go ahead, Councillor Giroux.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to bring this up, and Councillor D'Angelo mentioned it to Jeff when he was here presenting from the consortium. I'm looking at the key facts, the third bullet. Under the consortium agreement, the reservation and cost of ice time for each consortium partner only applies during the period of September to March. I'm just wondering if anybody that was on a negotiating team could answer this. Why wouldn't we go till the end of the ice? Go till the ice is out, which we knew it would be at the end of April. If we had a junior team here right now, or other competitive teams, they would be playing into April, so that would have, and that's the original reason why one of the reasons the junior Bs were couldn't operate last spring, but there was other reasons besides that. I'm just wondering, can we change this in the agreement or ask, because I think it's ridiculous that we're paying the amount, and Councillor D'Angelo reiterated that we're part owner, but we're paying this ridiculous amount, even though, it's a great investment. However, why do we only have September to March? If anybody could answer that, why didn't we have it extended to April?
My understanding, and I'll let Jeff explain this, is that because it went down to one rink. There are 2 rinks with active ice for the month of April. There's only the 1 rink, and you might want to elaborate so there's less ice available. But I'll let you answer that, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, these are good questions that were, crystal balled when the pro forma was put together. I think we recognize that at some point in time, it doesn't make sense to keep the ice in any arena, whether it shows up in an invoice coming to us or whether it's in our own arena where we only have maybe 1 or 2 teams that might be in playoffs. So the decision is made to keep the ice in one pad and pull the ice out of the other pad at Canada Games Park. That would allow the lacrosse group to get in and start their training camps. But towards the end of the year, some hockey associations have tryouts for next year, there's training camps, there's other types of uses that the community might be interested in, like senior skates and public skates, where it might make sense to keep the ice in one pad. It didn't work for us, but it might work in this situation, depending on the volume of people that want to use that facility at that time of the year. So this is new to us. The pro forma said that our ice time allocation, Thorold's ice time allocation, is over at the end of March. So if we wanted to continue on any of our programs, that we would be a paying customer like everyone else. That's kind of where we are. And as we get more familiarity, Mr. Mayor, with the, how the community wants to use the facility, maybe the ice comes out at Easter, maybe it comes out at the end of April, maybe it's extended even to the end of May, depending on who the tenants are, what their needs are. As we learn more about the facility, we'll know more about what these costs will mean to us.
Thank you, Jeff. The other thing is, it's obviously non-prime time, so I just think it's going to be unused at that time. But yet they're charging us for the senior skate. It works out to over $350 an hour, and for the public skating, over $500. So I just, those numbers just are troubling. Thank you.
What are the ice rates? Do you have that, Jeff? Because I know they're not any. That sounds.
Unless that's for 2 hours.
Well,
that
it's
might
more
be for
than 1
2
hour that they're using. Yeah.
Right. So you cut that in half. So we're okay. And then Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. That's correct. We're paying full price as we would any other paying customer at the facility. So it's $200 plus HST, and each one of those skates are for, I believe, 2 hours each.
Thank you.
Councilor D'Angelo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I was one of the ones that brought this forward to do this, but when I brought it forward, I didn't realize, because it brought to my attention that ice allocation only went to March. So thought process, I know, and Councilor Rose also thought this too, we're paying for ice time anyways, let's give it to some of our user groups to use it. But now that we have this report, we're actually paying for the ice on top of paying for the ice. So is it really worthwhile? I was gonna ask, like, have some of these dates already occurred through you, Mr. Mayor? And do we have some numbers of who participated? Like, how many people showed up for the first public, have any of the public skates started? Because I have 4 skates, would either be the 15th, 16th, 20th, or 22nd, 23rd. Has a public skate occurred yet?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor D'Angelo. So as of Thursday, March 23rd, we had 29 seniors skate. March 30th, the Thursday, 19 seniors skated. Sunday, April 2nd, 60 participants for the public skate. April 4th, we've had 20 seniors show up for the skate. April 6th, the Thursday, 25 seniors. April 8th, the Saturday, for a public skate, we had 32 attendance. And actually today we had 15 seniors show up for their senior skate.
It's encouraging that the numbers seem higher than I thought they would be based on this. Because originally I thought if the numbers weren't there that we could sort of cancel the rest of it. But I don't mind paying for things, but we want to make sure that we maximize the usage. And this is short notice, even with the public skating. If there's more, like, I think we're only doing 2 more public skates from the numbers that were mentioned. Okay, so we're halfway through this anyway, so it's sort of almost a moot point because we have this cost here. But definitely, if this is something that we're going to be doing next year, to actually build it into the budget and advertise it and make sure it's there so it's a seamless flow. The other thing too is if we're, again, this is something that we could do on our end, if we're not utilizing all the ice, and they're supposed to give us a schedule so we'll have a better understanding, is then start moving the senior skate there anyways, so it's consistent all the whole year. We're paying for that ice anyways, and they could be at that facility and then just seamlessly continue it another month, and it could work out a little better. So it'll be a little bit more planning next year. Like, this is sort of haphazard, but it is what it is right now. But I like the ideas that we're tracking these numbers and that we can better utilize this next year. Just the one thing that I did have a question on regarding staff costs. If we're running this at the Canada Summer Games, do they not have staff there? Like, why? I guess my question is, why would we need additional staff and staff costs? Maybe if that could be explained to me. Well, in the report, Mr. Mayor, if you read it, there's a staff cost allocation. The senior skate, it's $1,025 for staff costs.
Yeah.
But do they not have staff at the facility that can do whatever this staff is doing? I'm just looking for clarity on that. Is that $1,000 we could take off this cost? That's what I'm looking at.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, that's for our staff to be on the ice with our seniors. That's for our staff to process their passes and handle our money as well. That's any revenue generated from the public skates.
So, Mr. Mayor, through you to the staff. So this is just the exact same thing that's happening at the Doherty rink?
That's correct.
It's now just moved over there. Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Correct.
That answers my question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is just a memorandum advising of the vacancies in the BIA board. The memo is just for information, so you can certainly just receive that, but then it's really to advise council that it's up to you how you would like to fill these positions. The current chair of the board has put forward 2 names. Those were names, to our understanding, that were put forward by the membership originally, but were not voted on to the board at the time. Again, it's up to council how they'd like to fill these. They could take those recommendations and name them. The council can create an appointment process where we put an application out. You can ask the BIA to hold a general meeting, and or you could just appoint somebody. It really is, according to their terms of reference, up to council. Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it's unfortunate that we lost 2 board members at the BIA, and I really believe that for full transparency and proper democratic participation, we should select 2 of these possible 3 suggestions, and that is request that the board hold a general meeting and have the nominations come forward again, or open up an application process for the City of Thorold's website to see if they can add to the BIA membership. But I believe it would be a much more prudent approach to allow either the membership meeting or the membership vote, or a broader vote on these openings that have been created.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with open and transparent. I can tell you this, that they want to get their business moving along, so I don't know if opening up an application process to me would be too timely. They could hold a board meeting, or call an emergency board meeting to do it the way they did before. I have no problem with the 2 people that were on there. The people we lost, I didn't like seeing them go. But there is kind of, it's April and they want to get going with their you know, if I'm not speaking out of turn, Councilor did advise that they do want to get going with this. So if you want to be open and transparent, that's fine. But I would say the second one would be what you would want to do, because I don't think anybody else was put forward at the meeting where they didn't get on. But I wouldn't do the third one. That's pretty time consuming.
Yeah, I agree with Ken. We want to get it going, and that was the concern at the meeting. We're delaying. I have no problem with these two guys being nominated. They have businesses in Thorold. They have some skin in the game. They're downtown, so I have no problem with them. We want to get this rolling. More time we waste, it's just going to delay. And we're already behind now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just make a quick comment. I would go with a suggestion to have the board hold a general meeting and have the nominations come from the membership, not from one person. So that's what I would prefer. I will make a motion to do that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next meeting, I will bring forward a motion to have environmental impacts in reports to council when applicable. And I will work with the clerk to put something together that we hopefully all can work with.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a notice of motion regarding reviewing, I would call communication costs throughout the organization and the policy related to it in comparison to other municipalities.
Through Mr. Mayor, all the municipalities, including us, we are on Ontario program, so we already get subsidized rate as per our cell phones are concerned.
It's not specifically the rate, but do we have landlines where we have cell phone lines? Do we have cell phones? Like we have there was 30 bell charges. Like, are those 30 landlines that are still necessary, or do staff have the resources using a cell phone that they don't need a landline? So I'm looking at cost savings and making sure that not necessarily reducing the cost of the cell phone plan, but are the appropriate staff having cell phones? Do we have too many cell phones? Or do we have too many landlines? That's a type of review I'm looking at. And what do other municipalities do that are similar to us? Do all staff, every single employee of the organization have a cell phone? Do they have all landlines? Like, that's the type of review I'm looking at. It's more for cost efficiency than the fact that, okay, Talk Wireless, you could go elsewhere and get $1 savings. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for is the appropriate usage being managed and the cost associated with that, given the fact that we have landlines, but now we have more cell phones, right?
Perfect, thank you. Yeah.
I had a notice of motion also, Mr. Mayor. I just want to put forth a notice of motion that I want to bring up again the progress of the state of emergency declaration on homelessness, mental health, and substance abuse. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to acknowledge, the winter's over and the few storms we had in regards to snow plowing. When you go to other municipalities, I think they've done a superb job again this year, and I think it was one of the rarest years where I actually didn't receive many complaints about snow plowing. It was more or less about tickets, but only when we started enforcing it right at the end. So I just want to acknowledge it was a great job done. And I know a couple of residents did have some concerns, and Steve and the guys addressed them through the various avenues that we needed to go to. So I just wanted to give them kudos on a great job this winter they did in the city.
It's nice when I go downtown and I talk to people that come into Thornton. The first thing they tell me is how great we plow snow involved, and they wish it was like that in the municipality. So it's nice to hear. Anyway, you got a second?
Could you refresh my memory there? I don't have my notes on me, please. Hey, Oh, the ATVs. Yes, sorry, because I had
my
received
mic was
complaints, so I
off,
went
so you
out to.
probably couldn't hear me. Anyway.
Sorry, because I had a lot of things. Busy weekend, actually. A lot on the plate. So anyways, was out into Port Robinson West and then received some emails in regards to the season starting again, where there's an issue with off-road vehicles, ATVs, and whatnot. So if I can, through staff, if we can address this and get the word out to Niagara Regional Police. I don't know if any other councilors see that, but I received some videotaping this past week. And we know it's been an ongoing nuisance for the residents of Port Robinson West and East and Thorold South. And again, mention it again this year. If we could get some resolution, it would be great. But I acknowledge that I would mention it, and hopefully we can get this addressed.
It's an important issue. There's no discussion on it.
Yeah, I was just gonna make a comment. I was out there on Sunday and,
I think we all got I got the email with the pictures as well.
yeah, I saw them for myself.
Yeah.
That's what I just wanted to say.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. It's something we need to continue to work on, and it is a big issue. Okay, now.
Just before we go into closed session, it has nothing to do with this.